At Foster's truck repair, the pre-dawn silence was broken by the sound of glass breaking. Inside, muscle memory from years of fighting situations kept Lauren Foster's hands firm on the wrench she was gripping. She saw 3 members of Iron Serpents MC circling her garage like wolves through the surveillance cameras. They believed they had discovered an easy target, a single mother operating a Stone Valley repair business by herself. They were unaware that Lauren Foster's fingernails had not always been covered in oil. Some of the greatest successful Special Forces missions on 3 continents have previously been planned by those same hands. Commander Foster, who had a reputation for tearing down criminal empires, was the kind technician they witnessed assisting trucks and instructing her 12-year-old daughter Emma about engines. Using small-town garages as fronts for crimes that crossed state boundaries, the Iron Serpents MC had been establishing their operation for 2 years. They had never encountered opposition they couldn't overcome and had always succeeded in getting what they wanted. That was about to change. Let's have a little rest. Please let us know where you are tuning in. Remember to subscribe if you enjoy this type of content, since tomorrow's story will be something very exceptional. The morning at Foster's vehicle maintenance had begun as any other. Lauren moved with accuracy and efficiency while working beneath a raised semi. The familiar sounds of tools hitting metal blended with the soft music of the radio. The smell of pine from the nearby mountains filled the fresh fall air that filtered through the open bay doors. "Mom." The garage reverberated with Emma's voice. "Is my science project visible to you? The engine schematic you provided me with is nowhere to be seen." Lauren used a work cloth to wipe her hands as she slid out from under the truck. With her brown hair put back in a tidy ponytail and her backpack slung over one shoulder, her daughter stood in the doorway of the office. "Look in my desk's top drawer, honey. After we were done last night, I placed it there." Emma vanished into the office and came out a few seconds later carrying a thorough drawing of a combustion engine. "I located it. This will be a hit with Mrs. Andrews. The other children don't have any actual mechanical drawings. Just keep in mind the timing belt lesson I gave you. The tough aspect is that." Lauren observed her daughter focus intently on the schematic, just as she had done while she was planning operations. It seems that some abilities were inherited. As Mike Henderson entered, his routine morning coffee run took a serious turn upon seeing Lauren. The bell above the door chimed. His eyes had permanent stress lines from 20 years of driving, but today they were deeper. "Have you heard about Joe's Millbrook home?" His voice was quiet as he inquired. Acknowledging the tone, Lauren straightened. She had previously heard it during briefings on new dangers. The fire in the garage? It wasn't an accident. Mike looked around, then went on. Last week, Iron Serpents MC visited him and expressed interest in collaborating with his company. Joe declined. Then, with all of his equipment inside, the place catches fire. Once more, Emma showed up in the office doorway with her phone in her hand. "Would Kelly be able to work on our science presentation after school, Mom?" The knot in Lauren's stomach grew, but she forced a grin. "Yes, dear. But go right home, will we? No place to stop." Mike went on after Emma departed for school. They're heading west. In the past month, 3 garages along Highway 40 in its whole. Offers of protection are made first, followed by partnerships. Those who decline. He left the sentence hanging. Lauren walked to the workbench and arranged the tools in a purposefully relaxed manner. She appeared to anyone observing to be a mechanic getting ready for the day's work. However, just as she had done in the service, her mind was already mapping patterns and analyzing approaches. "The next logical stop is Stone Valley," she remarked softly, weighing a wrench. "Intersection of a highway. 3 counties are well covered. A strategic location." Mike blinked. "You seem to have given this some thought." "Old routines." Lauren put down the wrench. "What is the size of their crew?" Despite having 20 local chapters, they enlist assistance from other regions when required. They are reportedly run by Blaze, Derek Cooper, a former service member who was released under dubious circumstances. Lauren nodded, putting the details away. Walt Morgan, his wrinkled face worried, entered as the bell rung once more. The parts store down the street had been operated by the older mechanic for 30 years. He called out to Lauren, "I just received word from my supplier. It's an oddity. Claims that they are no longer able to deliver to Stone Valley. A routing problem of some sort. I've never experienced that issue before." Lauren whispered, "They're isolating us," but she stopped herself. When did this begin? Bobby at the diner was informed yesterday that his food supplier was experiencing contract problems at the same time. Walt squinted his eyes. "Do you have any knowledge of this?" Lauren was careful with her word choice. "Let's just say that I've previously noticed similar trends. They first disrupt supply serpents, leaving companies exposed, and then they promise to assist in resolving the issues they caused." Mike put down his coffee. "How do we proceed?" Lauren observed morning traffic passing her garage through the window, including people going to work, children going to school, and truckers beginning their routes, all the typical aspects of small-town life that she had battled to preserve in previous locations under other conditions. "For the time being, we keep an eye on everything, record any odd cars, motorcycles in particular, take notes on times and descriptions, and discreetly spread the news. Advise individuals to be vigilant without fear." "You seem to have done this before," Walt said. With the soothing familiar weight in her palms, Lauren picked up her wrench once more. "In a different existence that I believed I had abandoned." She looked straight at them. "However, they ought to be aware of something if they are traveling to Stone Valley. This town is different from others. Because they're up against someone who knows exactly how to dismantle an organization piece by piece this time," she continued in a whisper. The sole query was if she could accomplish this while keeping her history and her daughter hidden. Lauren started her morning routine as Walt and Mike departed. But now she had another reason to move. Every tool inspection turned into a weapons evaluation. Every sightline calculation took possible cover into account. The already accurate security camera angles were gently changed. Lauren Foster was getting ready for a conflict that only she knew was imminent, and Stone Valley was set to turn into a battlefield. 3 days later, the first symptoms appeared. When Lauren heard the characteristic rumbling of performance-modified motorcycles, she was investigating a gearbox problem beneath a Peterbilt. After years of monitoring convoy movements, she developed the habit of counting the engines by sound while her hands remained motionless on the wrench. "There are 4 bikes coming from the east." She saw many pairs of boots come into the garage through the greasy concrete. Well-worn and of military grade. Their soles showed signs of wear, indicating that the riders were both comfortable on the ground and spent a lot of time riding bikes. "Is there a store owner nearby?" A voice sounded gravelly. Lauren understood the tone, calculated power intended to frighten. She moved with control and precision as she slid out from under the truck. In her garage bay, 3 men with Iron Serpents MC insignia emblazoned on their leather cuts stood. A 4th rode his bike behind them, watching the roadway. The towering commander, with a well-groomed beard and graying temples, grinned coldly. His vest had a patch that said, "Blaze." Lauren noticed that Derek Cooper himself was showing up in person. She wiped her hands on a shop cloth and said, "Welcome to Foster's. How may I assist you?" Cooper looked about the garage, seeing the neat workspace, the well-placed security cameras, and the well-organized tools. "You have a good operation here." "Expert." He stressed the final word. "Running a place like this by yourself must be difficult." Lauren continued to look at the other 2 members, who had moved to flank her with patches that said, "Wolf" and "Stone," common kind of intimidation. "I get by." "Are you on a social call or are you here to fix something?" "A little bit of each." Cooper took his riding gloves off. Look, Stone Valley is becoming bigger. Something is about to change. These days, astute business owners recognize the importance of protection. Lauren saw Emma stepping off the school bus across the street through the window of the office. After seeing the motorcycles, her daughter halted her progress into the garage. Lauren made a small hand gesture, one of several they had rehearsed. Emma turned right away and went to the next-door diner. Defense? Lauren drew attention to herself by speaking in a neutral tone. From what? Everything. Cooper touched her toolbox with her finger. Equipment malfunctions, supply issues, and mishaps involving customers. The world is a realm of uncertainty. Like the fate of Joe's Millbrook garage. Lauren saw their responses. Wolf's hand moved a little. A clue. He had visited that place. Cooper's grin grew strained. Unfortunate circumstance. The location was not up to code. I heard there were electrical problems. It's funny. Joe had brand new equipment. Last spring, I completed the installs myself. The room's temperature appeared to plummet. Stone's hand moved toward his jacket as he adjusted his weight. Lauren seemed to check her phone as she took note of the action. Not a battle veteran making threats, but a mother preoccupied with messages. You seem connected and well-informed, Cooper observed. Having certain attributes in a business partner is beneficial. Companion. Lauren put down her phone. Iron Serpents MC supports investing in the community. We manage administrative concerns, guarantee consistent supply lines, and offer security. Our partners provide sporadic operational help and fair monthly contributions in exchange. Lauren casually tested the weight of a wrench she was holding. And if someone would rather manage their company on their own? Cooper's amiable exterior faltered a little. Particularly for a single mother with so much to safeguard, independence is overrated. The air was heavy with the threat. Lauren gripped the wrench tighter, but her voice didn't waver. You seem to have done your homework. We are meticulous. Cooper took a step forward. Emma is 12, correct? Intelligent child. Performs well in school. It would be unfortunate if anything had an impact on her academic career. Lauren's world became more focused on strategic planning. There are 3 hazards nearby. As a lookout, the 4th is outside. Several guns hidden beneath jackets. She may have them. She had the advantage of being familiar with the dozens of homemade weaponry available in the garage. The play wasn't like that, though. Not quite yet. Instead, she answered, I'll need time to think about your offer. Anticipating this reaction, Cooper nodded. 24 hours a day. We'll return tomorrow to get your response. He started to walk away but stopped. Lauren, too. Calling the cops is a waste of time. The new cruiser of the sheriff? He got an excellent discount on the maintenance contract from Iron Serpents MC. Lauren went through the motions of locking up shop after they roared away. She cleaned work areas, secured tools, and looked over inventories. Now, however, every movement had a new function. Potential weapons were identified and positioned, sight lines were computed, and security cameras were adjusted. Emma cautiously made her way from the diner. Mom. Those were horrible folks, according to Kelly's father. Lauren inhaled the familiar smell of her shampoo as she drew her daughter close. Some individuals believe they are free to steal anything they desire. However, do you recall the lesson I gave you about bullies? Only when someone confronts them do they become frightening. Lauren kissed the top of her head, exactly. While I finish up here, how about you complete your schoolwork at the office? Lauren made a call that she had thought she would never have to make as Emma settled down with her books. Before a recognizable voice picked up, the phone rang again. Mike, do you recall asking what we ought to do regarding our supply issue? Now is the time to request the favors you mentioned. Each and every one. She hung up and surveyed her home, her garage, her source of income, and the future of her kid. The Iron Serpents MC believed they were acting in accordance with their standard procedure. Isolate, dominate, and intimidate. However, Lauren Foster had penned a playbook of a different sort. One that had taken down considerably more deadly groups than a motorbike gang. It was time to demonstrate to Stone Valley what true protection looked like for a full day. Lauren converted her garage office into a tactical command center after waiting until Emma was asleep. The desk calendar evolved into a chronology of Iron Serpents MC's travels across nearby communities. Equipment receipts showed interruptions in the supply stream. Invoices from nearby businesses revealed takeover trends. She was looking at the maps when she heard a knock at the back door. Walt Morgan, Mike Henderson, and 4 other truckers Lauren knew from routine maintenance came in. They had gloomy expressions. Mike put down a big folder and stated, "The news isn't good. There are Iron Serpents fans everywhere. 2 truck stops, 3 suppliers of parts, and even the highway patrol dispatch. They're enclosing us." Lauren's thoughts shifted to operational analysis as she dispersed the fresh data across her desk. They are professional and effective. This goes beyond simply occupying repair shops. They are constructing infrastructure. For what purpose? Walt inquired. Network of distribution. Lauren gave the map a tap. Examine the pattern. Each garage they have occupied is situated at a key intersection. Complete coverage of the main thoroughfares. They are more than just bike-riding thugs. They have a complex operation in the works. Once more, the rear door opened. Detective Laura Winchester, still dressed in civilian clothes, came in. "I apologize for being late. I had to be careful not to be followed." On the desk, she put a police file. "Regarding the sheriff, you were correct. These were discovered in his office safe. Records of payments dating back 6 months." Lauren looked over the papers, making notes on dates and amounts. They purchased him before to their arrival in the area. Long-range planning. "How about Emma?" Mike inquired. "They weren't making empty threats. Already taken care of." Lauren's computer displayed the security feed. Emma's teacher was Elizabeth Andrews. She used to be a military intelligence officer. "She owes me from Baghdad, but she hasn't played in 10 years. She will watch Emma at school." Walt gave a low whistle. "In Stone Valley, how many previous operators are hiding?" "Enough." Lauren looked around at the gathering. "However, military experience is not enough. The community is essential to us. How are your trucking contacts doing, Mike?" 15 self-sufficient drivers are prepared to assist. In some villages, Iron Serpents' protection racket incinerated everyone. They'll tell others about it. Keep an eye on the roadways. Detective Winchester gave a nod. "I can get in touch with clean cops in nearby counties. We are aware that they are not employed by Iron Serpents." "Excellent." Lauren indicated places on the map. "Everywhere, we need eyes. Walt, customers of your parts store. People, salt of the earth. They will alert us if they notice outsiders riding bicycles." Lauren looked at her timepiece. "Cooper has 18 hours to meet his deadline. They'll anticipate our fear. Separated. That's how they usually do it. We'll be structured instead. Ready." She took out the blueprints for her garage. "Tomorrow, they will be enforced. If someone rejects them, set an example for them. Thus, we must be prepared. These entrance points might be blocked by your trucks, Mike. Walt, you can see the approaches clearly from the roof of your store." One of the truckers remarked, "You sound like you're getting ready for war." Lauren's face became stern. "They put my daughter in danger. Put our town in danger. You're absolutely correct, I support war. Winchester, the detective, looked over the tactical plans. Even with this careful planning, we are still outnumbered. Riders from other chapters may be drawn to Iron Serpents. Fights are not won by numbers. Lauren took up a battered notebook from a drawer. Strategy works. And ever since they hit Millbrook, I've been organizing this. She outlined her plan. Protecting a single garage wasn't the point. The goal was to reveal Iron Serpents' whole business. There were weaknesses in every criminal enterprise. Lines of supply. Avenues of communication. Financial records. I want you to concentrate on paper trails, Laura. Pay attention to their money. Your drivers keep an eye on the roadways, Mike. Keep tabs on their whereabouts. Walt, unexpected orders may be noticed by your network of vendors. Changes to the equipment. The team devoted hours to honing strategies, setting up channels of communication, and determining possible dangers and countermeasures. As Lauren saw them at work, she saw a community coming together rather than just small-town business owners. It took us a long time to prepare and tell this story, so please subscribe to our channel if you find it entertaining. It means a lot to us. Let's return to the narrative. They heard motorcycles circle the area near midnight, 2 of them running dark. Observation, Lauren said. They are keeping an eye on us to see if we would fight back. Are we? Walt inquired. Lauren went to the window to look through the blinds to see where the bikes were. They anticipate immediate confrontation or capitulation. We will not provide them with either. Not quite yet. What is the play about? Mike inquired. I meet their deadline tomorrow. Act as though you are negotiating. We collect intelligence in the interim. Expand our network. As we undermine their business piece by piece, let them believe they are in charge. Similar to how you served. Winchester, the detective, inquired. The image of Lauren hardened in the window. No, this isn't the same. It's a personal matter. She faced the group once more. We had political considerations and rules of engagement in the service. Right here. They put my child in danger. Our community. There are no rules. With their motors roaring in the dark, the bikers passed again. Lauren advised the group to get some sleep. We will demonstrate to Iron Serpents MC tomorrow why they ought to have done more research on Stone Valley prior to relocating there. Lauren checked her security systems one last time as they walked out the back door. The bikers made one last pass before vanishing into the night, according to camera feeds. They believed they were hunting and were ready to kill simple prey. They were unaware that they were being pursued. Above the garage, Emma's voice floated down from their flat. I heard voices, Mom. Honey, just a few customers. Ascending the stairs, Lauren discovered her daughter sitting upright in bed. Is everything all right? Will those men return tomorrow? Sitting on the edge of the bed, Lauren smoothed Emma's hair. Most likely. But do you recall what I told you about being ready? Emma gave a nod. Make a plan. Be aware of your escape routes. Have faith in your intuition. That's right. Lauren felt her daughter's heartbeat as she gave her a tight hug. Go to bed now. It will be a fascinating day tomorrow. Emma dozed off, and Lauren went back to her office. The information networks, the plans, the maps. Everything was starting to fit together. Iron Serpents believed they were going after a regular garage owner. They could easily terrify a single mother. Rather, they had roused something much more terrible. A community prepared to fight back, a mother guarding her child, and a warrior defending her home. While Lauren arranged Mike's trucks in a strategic manner around her garage, Dawn painted Stone Valley in various hues of gray. They appeared to be early morning repairs to onlookers. They created an ideal protective perimeter in the sight of the trained eye. Walt's truck backed up to the side entrance of the garage as his morning delivery arrived on time. However, he was delivering surveillance gear that he had borrowed from his hunting business in place of parts. Motion sensors, tiny cameras, and other unobtrusive items. Mike's voice crackled through the recently installed radio beneath Lauren's workbench. Got movement on Route 40. There are 12 bikes making their way into town. They are being led by Blaze. Lauren looked at her timepiece. Their last visit was exactly 24 hours ago. Military accuracy. One additional indication that Derek Blaze Cooper was not merely a gang boss. Is Emma at school safely? As he helped Lauren hide the final camera, Walt inquired. Elizabeth is watching her. For a surprise fire drill, whole buildings were shut down. Lauren went to her toolbox and carefully arranged the wrenches. Every tool is positioned for convenience and now serves two purposes. Motorcycles began to growl louder. Lauren saw the Iron Serpents MC coming on the security feeds. They divided into 3 groups and covered every garage approach. Professional strategies, as she had anticipated. Recall that Lauren whispered into her radio. Unless I give the signal, nobody moves. Give them the impression that they are in charge. Blaze was the first to enter, followed by Stone and Wolf. Outside, 9 more bikers positioned themselves. Lauren took note of their configurations, noting any vulnerabilities for later. It's time to make a decision, Blaze declared, theatrically taking off his gloves. Astute entrepreneurs are already registering. When weighed against the alternatives, protection fees are fairly affordable. Lauren's posture was purposefully relaxed as she leaned against her workbench. And from what precisely are we being shielded? Life is dangerous, Blaze said, gesturing to his men. Accidents, supply issues, and equipment malfunctions. Stone Valley is evolving. The question is, do you get run over or do you change with it? What about my garage? How does it contribute to these changes? Blaze's smile fell short of his eyes. For the proper company, a strategic location, a solid reputation, and a devoted clientele could be beneficial. We provide more than just safety, we provide partnership. What he didn't say was heard by Lauren. Her garage would serve as a central location for distribution. Like the others they had taken over, this legitimate company was concealing illicit activities. She said, "You've done your homework. Do some research on my daughter, the town, and the business. Do it always. Emma is a really good student. Feel embarrassed if her flawless attendance record was impacted by anything." Lauren's voice stayed steady as her palm gripped the wrench she was holding tighter. Everything seems to be planned out for you. Usually do. Blaze approached, encroaching on her personal space. What will it be, then? Is it easier or more difficult? Lauren saw Detective Winchester's unmarked car go slowly by through the rear window. Exactly on time. It's time to set the initial trap. In fact, I have a counteroffer, Lauren remarked. Blaze's eyebrows lifted a little, which was out of character for him. Counterproposal. Lauren went to her desk and took out a folder. Payment records, supply routes, and the names of the officials on your payroll make for interesting reading. She saw their responses. Wolf's hand moved in the direction of his jacket. Stone's weight moved. Prepared for battle. Where did you purchase that? There was danger in Blaze's voice. Is it important? If something were to happen to me, my daughter, or my garage, it would matter where copies of these records would wind up. The room's temperature appeared to plummet. Blaze reevaluated the threat level and scrutinized her with new vigor. He cautioned, "You're playing a risky game." Not a game. Lauren looked him in the eye. Just business. Strategic location, as you mentioned. Good standing. Beneficial to the appropriate organization. Or harmful to the incorrect person. Blaze's exterior cracked a little. His customary strategy of intimidation and acquiescence was not being followed here. Do you believe that paperwork can avert the impending disaster? The fact that so many of your supply routes pass via areas that have been compromised intrigues me. Lauren gave the folder a tap. It seems as though someone has been charting your business. Collecting proof. Constructing a case. The ramifications were uncertain. When Blaze realized he had fallen into a trap, his face clouded. Not all you are is a mechanic. Lauren concurred that you performed your research on the company. Need to have investigated the owner more thoroughly. Blaze stopped Stone's advance with a raised hand. For the first time, he saw Lauren clearly, and his gaze never left her face. An adversary who had been ahead by a few steps, not a victim to be scared. Finally, he said, 24 hours. Think carefully about your stance. No one opposes Iron Serpents and remains upright. Let's see. Lauren said with a serene assurance. Within a day, a lot can change. They roared off, and Walt came out of the back office. It was a poker face. However, they will return, won't they? You can count on it. Lauren watched the bikers scatter as she made her way to her security feeds. They will also provide reinforcements. The radio crackled with Mike's voice. They are separating. 3 teams. In different directions. Lauren took notice of the idea. They will investigate my background, look for any vulnerabilities, and attempt to confirm the threat. Lauren gave them a gloomy expression when they saw that you were lying about the paperwork. Who says I'm playing a bluff? The automobile of Detective Winchester came into the parking lot. She said that they entered through the rear entrance after falling for the bait. 3 departments worth of contacts have already called. They are doing checks and retrieving records. Excellent. Lauren started making changes to her chronology. Our people follow them around while they're concentrating on me. Every delivery, every meeting, every stop. Playing a risky game, Walt noted. No. Lauren's face became stern. Playing the only game that is detrimental to such enterprises. While we follow them about, let them believe they are the hunters. Once more, the radio crackled. The voice of Elizabeth Andrews. Emma is secure. However, there are observers close to the school. Trying to look casual, 2 motorcycles. This was what Lauren had anticipated. Keep in mind that everyone goes about their daily lives as usual. Let them observe. Give them the impression that they are in charge. Returning to her maps, she updated positions and noted trends. Iron Serpents believed that Stone Valley's noose was being tightened. Rather, one move at a time, they were exposing their entire enterprise. Everything would alter in the next 24 hours. Whether Stone Valley was prepared for what lay ahead was the only issue. At midnight, the first indication of Iron Serpents' reaction appeared. When the garage's electricity went out, Lauren was watching security footage. Not her building alone. The whole block. She witnessed 2 figures at the adjoining transformer box disappear on motorcycles with night vision binoculars. She mumbled, just on time, and turned on her backup generator. A memento from her time in Special Forces. Totally off the grid. Her radio gave forth a crackling sound. Lauren? Mike sounded tense. I have 3 motorcycles riding around my truck yard. Something is in their possession. Don't participate. Allow them to initiate contact. The radio was filled with the sound of glass shattering, then the sound of automobile alarms. Lauren's mouth clenched. Now, as she had anticipated, they were going after her allies. Then Walt's voice interrupted. My parts store is on fire. The back door is small. They left a message, but they managed to contain it. Say I ought to reevaluate my business affiliations. Then came Detective Winchester's update. Tonight, 4 people were arrested. Riley's bar fight. However, according to our witnesses, Iron Serpents initiated it and vanished before the uniforms showed up. The local police are being overpowered. Keep us occupied. Lauren checked defensive stances as she walked with familiar ease through her darkened garage. Throughout the day, every tool and piece of equipment had been thoughtfully placed, not only for work but also for future plans. Status at school, she inquired. Elizabeth answered quietly. However, since dusk, they have made 3 drive-bys to let us know they are observing. The radio banter was joined by a fresh voice. A driver for Mike. On Highway 40, there was movement. There are several bikes coming into town. At least 30, possibly more. Lauren looked at her timepiece. Blaze had already called in reinforcements and was moving more quickly than anticipated. Just as she had anticipated, the strain was building. A text message from an unidentified number buzzed through her phone. Final opportunity. Tomorrow, everyone will discover why garage fires are so prevalent in our area if you don't sign the partnership documents. One more buzz. It's unfortunate if something went wrong, but Emma seems to enjoy her morning stroll to the bus stop. The threats were getting more specific and more serious, but Lauren had also expected this. One word was typed back by her. Observe. After a few seconds, the exterior lights of the garage came on, revealing 3 Iron Serpents members who had been coming in the dark. The unexpected glare surprised them and made them freeze. Lauren murmured softly, "Smile for the cameras," as she saw them turn away in bewilderment. Her security system, which had been honed to withstand this type of intimidation, was considerably more advanced than they had anticipated. Once more, the radio crackled. Winchester, detective. Lauren received word from my state police contact. Iron Serpents has been extracting records and making calls. They are investigating your past. Excellent. Lauren grinned glumly. Give them a look. Our people keep track of their whereabouts for every minute they spend looking into me. The voice of Walt. One of Iron Serpents' prospects just showed up at the ER with an intriguing visit. Doc believes the injuries appear to be more the result of a beating, even though Guy claims he crashed his bike. Internal discipline, Lauren said. Failure is not tolerated by Blaze. Those who were captured on camera are being punished by him. The night went on. A game of moves and countermoves in chess. Iron Serpents attempted to isolate and intimidate, tested defenses, and looked for weaknesses. Lauren's network, however, was prepared, monitoring every move and compiling intelligence. Mike reported fresh activity at around 3 in the morning. Large gathering in the former warehouse area. There are cyclists we haven't seen before in addition to Blaze. Various patches. It appears that other chapters are taking the lead. Lauren changed her security feeds to a covert camera that she had set up a few days prior close to the warehouses. As Blaze made an angry gesture, the video showed hundreds of bikes and their riders huddled around him. She noted that he's requesting favors, bringing in enough power to overcome any opposition. Can we manage those figures? Winchester, the detective, inquired. The issue is not numbers. Lauren watched the video. Take a look at their organization and formation. Remember that Blaze used to be in the military? He is organizing this as if it were a tactical maneuver. Not good, isn't it? No, Lauren's face became stern. That's ideal, as I am aware of every pattern he may employ and military actions follow them. The sky was painted in shades of gray as dawn drew near. Several vandalism incidents were reported throughout the town by Lauren's allies. Precise, targeted, and intended to convey a message. However, every incident was recorded, captured on camera, and added to the expanding body of evidence. For the last time, her phone buzzed. A note and a picture of Emma via the school window. Consider how commonplace mishaps are in chemistry classes. Lauren radioed Elizabeth, her hand gripping her phone tighter, her voice steady. Start the 3rd protocol. Emma and 3 other pupils whose parents had assisted Lauren were discreetly transferred to a safe place in a matter of minutes. Days earlier, a backup plan was planned. The wreckage of the night was exposed as the daylight rose over Stone Valley. Small fires were put out fast, cars were vandalized, and windows were broken. Iron Serpents had displayed its strength and flexed its muscles. The gang appeared to be winning in the eyes of most onlookers. However, Lauren saw a difference in the destructive patterns. Their organization became increasingly apparent with each act of intimidation. Each threat revealed a new aspect of their business. The evidence file was expanding due to a systematic pattern of illegal behavior rather than isolated events. For the last time Mike's voice could be heard. "I just overheard a conversation. Everyone is being called in by Blaze. A full-force display is scheduled for noon." "Excellent." Lauren started her morning ritual by carefully inspecting the equipment. Now is the time to demonstrate what true force looks like. Because Iron Serpents believed the noose was being tightened. Rather, they were entering a trap that had been set for months. Stone Valley was going to discover why it's never a good idea to corner someone who has been trained to transform hunters into prey. Stone Valley was hauntingly quiet by 11:30. Inexplicably, frequent patrons had discovered reasons to go elsewhere. With the exception of a few well-placed semis, the streets around Foster's truck repair were deserted. It appeared to onlookers that the town was giving in to the impending loss. Lauren walked calmly and purposefully through her garage, making one last check of positions. Mike's trucks appeared to be parked indiscriminately, blocking important approaches. There was high ground coverage from Walt's store. Detective Winchester's unmarked vehicles appeared to be abandoned and were parked at important junctions. "They will arrive." The radio crackled with Mike's voice. "The main force is traveling up Highway 40. I have more than 50 bikes. Chapter leaders from 3 states behind Blaze in the lead." Lauren watched the oncoming caravan while alternating between security feeds. As she had anticipated, Iron Serpents MC had arrived with overwhelming force. They were arranged with military accuracy. Blaze's impact is seen in every little element. She communicated to her network, "Everyone maintain position. We're not attempting to stop them, remember. We are recording all of this." As Iron Serpents MC rumbled into Stone Valley, the rumble of motorcycles intensified into a deafening cacophony. They arrived from everywhere. In the midday light, bikes shine. A display of power intended to frighten and show total authority. With their motorcycles creating an impromptu arena in the parking lot, Blaze led the main group directly to Lauren's garage. It was an obvious message. No way out, no opposition, no hope. It was quite a crowd, Lauren noted as Blaze got off his horse. Bringing in leadership from other chapters must be crucial. Final opportunity. Slowly, Blaze took off his gloves. "Put your signature on the documents. Take advantage of our protection. Or we show why it is a fatal error to cross Iron Serpents MC." Lauren observed additional motorcycles occupying locations along the block via her covert camera feeds. Encirclement by the military standard. However, she also pointed out what they overlooked. Every move is captured by the covert cameras. The carefully positioned cars are prepared to obstruct escape routes. Lauren actually came forward. "I am planning a counter-demonstration." She gave Walt a nod as he pushed a button in his shop. All of Stone Valley's radios and TVs suddenly started playing the same video. Members of Iron Serpents MC exchange money with dishonest officials, threaten others, and commit acts of vandalism. "What is this?" Blaze made a demand. However, Lauren could see the insight emerging in his eyes. "Proof." Across the now quiet parking lot, Lauren's voice could be heard. "Every danger, every crime, every dishonest transaction. Everything has been time-stamped, documented, and is presently being submitted to several law enforcement organizations. Do you believe we'll be stopped by some videos? Wolf growled and advanced. Blaze, however, raised a hand while examining Lauren with fresh vigor. "You're more than just a mechanic," he muttered. "Military?" "No. The Special Forces." Lauren concurred that more thorough background checks were necessary. "Rather than merely threatening my daughter." Their fatal error had been that a single mother would be easily intimidated, they had assumed. Rather, they had provided a former Special Forces member with precisely what she required. Rationale for shutting down their whole business. Blaze gave the command to turn off the broadcasts on his radio. "Now shut it down." "Not possible." Lauren smiled a little to herself. Signals are being transmitted across several channels, and each effort to halt them produces more conspiracy evidence. She noticed movement as a few Iron Serpents members attempted to stealthily depart. They were aware of the impending danger and had identified the trap. However, their escape options were blocked and Mike's meticulously positioned vehicles unexpectedly experienced mechanical problems. "Blaze recognized that you had been playing us." "Everything. The paperwork, the holdups, the lonesome opposition. You had a case to make. You actually completed that on your own, and only made sure that everything was documented." Lauren gave the nearby structures a nod. "Every doorway, window, and security camera in Stone Valley has been recording your business. Federal and state agencies are already monitoring live feeds of known criminal groups congregating for coordinated intimidation." Blaze lost his temper. "You were not entitled. You put my daughter in danger." Fire might have been frozen by Lauren's words. There was no right or wrong after that. Just acquiring targets and getting rid of threats. Police sirens started to blare in the distance as if on cue. Detective Winchester had placed state police tactical troops outside town, not local law enforcement. "Last chance," Lauren remarked, retorting what Blaze had stated. "Give up right away, or show why it is a fatal error to cross a Special Forces officer." Blaze turned his perfect trap into a perfect ambush as he peered around. The tactical nightmare was identified by his military training. High terrain is blanketed, there are no clear escape routes, and the amount of evidence is growing every second. But he was not a man of surrender. "Take her," he said. Hell erupted. Members of the Iron Serpents rushed forward, but Lauren was prepared. The major force separated as His garage door automatically slammed shut. Unexpectedly, trucks that had been parked strategically came to life, their air horns causing bewilderment. When fire sprinklers were on, the surface became dangerous for cyclists. Lauren Foster demonstrated the reasons behind her legendary status in Special Forces. Before they knew she was moving, the first two attackers were taken down. A wrench turned into a weapon of accuracy. An improvised barricade was made out of a wheeled toolbox. All the equipment in the garage had been set up for this specific time. She could hear her network reacting in perfect sync through her radio. The escape routes were blocked by Mike's drivers. High ground security was provided by Walt's Hunting Club. Teams led by Detective Winchester advanced from locations they had prepared. Blaze made the error of grabbing her from behind. He collided into Wolf after Lauren exploited his own momentum. As state police tactical troops rushed in from all sides, both were severely damaged. New voices and federal agents joined the confusion. Everybody on the ground. As Iron Serpents MC's flawless military operation turned into a perfect catastrophe, Lauren stood in the middle of it all. Blaze got up with difficulty and reached for a concealed handgun. "Don't." Lauren's voice broke the commotion. "We already have enough proof from you. Don't include the accusation of assaulting a federal agent." Blaze stopped. "A federal agent? Reactivated recently?" Lauren grinned glumly. "It turns out that motorcycle gangs employing military techniques piqued the interest of my former squad. You provided them with an ideal case study. Instead of a spectacular final stand, the battle for Stone Valley concluded with the silent snap of handcuffs. The leadership of Iron Serpents MC was methodically disarmed and taken into custody. Their military expertise was ineffective against a trap set by the author of the Tactical Operations book. Lauren was joined by Detective Winchester as federal authorities started processing inmates. You anticipated their arrival. I relied on it. Lauren observed Blaze being escorted off. Because of his military experience, he would use overwhelming force to overcome opposition. Predictable. Similar to the patterns that Special Forces uses to monitor. What about the proof? Enough to annihilate Iron Serpents MC and all of their corrupt officials and business associates. Once more, Stone Valley was silent, but in a different way. Something stronger had taken the place of the terror. Under the leadership of a mechanic who demonstrated that sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones you underestimate, a community had successfully resisted intimidation. Lauren's cell rang. Elizabeth sent a message. Emma was secure. The backup location remains undisturbed. Iron Serpents was completely unaware of it. Some of the lessons were pricey. Threatening the wrong unmarried mother in the wrong tiny town had just cost the Iron Serpents MC everything. As federal officials processed the remaining Iron Serpents members who had been captured, evening shadows extended across Stone Valley. Lauren's garage had turned into a makeshift command center, and law enforcement officers were examining evidence files she had painstakingly assembled in her office. As she spread pictures around her desk, the lead federal agent stated, "We're looking at a major RICO case. Corruption, extortion, and money laundering. You uncovered a whole criminal infrastructure in addition to apprehending crooks." He was hardly audible to Lauren. She was monitoring Emma's arrival on the surveillance feed in the garage. With hesitation, her daughter entered, surveying the wave of handcuffed motorcyclists and police badges. "Mom." Emma's voice was a mixture of relief and concern. Elizabeth declared that it was now safe to return. Lauren inhaled the familiar smell of her shampoo as she drew her daughter close. "It's over, my love. We won't be bothered by them again. The motorcycle-riding bad guys. They made a grave error." Emma's hair was smoothed by Lauren. "They believed that threatening me would frighten me. Rather, it helped me become really concentrated." Detective Winchester came in, looking serious. "We have an issue, Lauren. Blaze is speaking. His words. We underestimated how deep this goes." Lauren turned to the detective and told Emma to begin her schoolwork in the back room of the office. "How far down?" "Iron Serpents is a part of something more than just a motorcycle gang. The supply lines they were establishing. Across state lines, they have ties to powerful crime organizations." Mike joined them, his typical smile giving way to worry. "My drivers informed me that 3 other states were discovering similar operations. The same motif. Motorcycle gangs are establishing distribution networks and occupying transportation hubs." Lauren looked at the map on her wall and became more aware of the patterns. Under the guise of respectable firms, they were constructing infrastructure. The federal agent confirmed that it was much larger. "We are witnessing links to terrorist finance, weapons trafficking, and drug cartels. Iron Serpents was only a single component of a much bigger picture." Walt cautiously walked by the evidence techs and went through the rear door. "I just had calls from different repair shops throughout the area, not just here. Everybody has tales of motorcycle gangs encroaching and requesting money for security." Lauren understood they were all connected. Detective Winchester concluded, "The same operation, different gangs, and military tactics because they're being run by ex-military. Similar to Blaze, we are seeing an increase in gang leaders with experience in special operations. They are being specifically recruited." Lauren's strategic thinking went into overdrive. Here, Iron Serpents' actions weren't arbitrary. Didn't Stone Valley serve as a test case? Prior to growing, they were demonstrating the viability of their model. Mike noted grimly, that is, until they bumped into you. They noticed a disturbance outdoors. They watched as a number of black SUVs pulled up on the security feeds. Men in pricey suits appeared, their posture announcing their federal power. The main agent described the National Security Division. The consequences of what you discovered here go far beyond organized crime. With narrowed eyes, Lauren observed the newcomers' formation and movements. She was aware that there was military training there as well, but it was more advanced than Blaze's. They'll want to categorize everything, she muttered. Put it under the heading of national security. Winchester, the detective, stepped forward. Are they able to achieve that? Lauren's voice tightened. They can try. However, I printed a ton of copies and gave them to individuals they will never see. Everything becomes public if something happens to the evidence or to us. The detective gave a small smile. Aren't you always 3 steps ahead? Had a good special forces teacher. He used to remark that creating several avenues for the truth to escape is the greatest approach to combat corruption. Walt observed the suits as they made their way to the garage. Now what? It's not over yet, is it? No. Lauren inspected her tools, which were neatly put on her workbench. Iron Serpents was only the first step. Someone with a lot of authority will try to stop the entire tapestry from unraveling since we just pulled one thread. Mike had a troubled expression. They will pursue you, attempt to undermine the facts, and end the inquiry. Most likely. Lauren grinned glumly. But since we now have something they don't, they'll discover that's more difficult than frightening a small-town mechanic. What is that? A system. They had attempted to take over every small business, repair shop, and truck stop. Everyone is now linked and exchanging data. They believed they could keep us apart. Rather, they provided us with a shared cause. Emma emerged in the doorway of the office. Mom. Are we in danger once more? Lauren gave her daughter a hug. No, dear. However, there may be those who are. Do you recall what I told you about bullies? That the bigger ones don't always wear leather, but rather suits. That's right. Lauren observed the government representatives coming closer. And sometimes it takes more than one battle to stop them. It requires the entire community to stand together. The radio of Detective Winchester crackled. State-to-state arrests are on the rise. More proof is coming to light. More links are being found. Iron Serpents MC believed they were occupying a small town. Rather, they had set off a series of events that threatened to reveal high-level malfeasance. And in the middle of it all was a mechanic who had previously served in special forces and knew better than anybody that some conflicts don't have a single winner. Some conflicts are only the start of a larger conflict. Lauren gave Emma a forehead kiss. Honey, go do your homework. Mom needs to do some more work. Because it wasn't just a biker gang that Stone Valley had vanquished. They had discovered something far more significant. Lauren Foster was going to demonstrate to a whole new group of adversaries why it would be their final mistake to attack her family. On the surface, Lauren's garage appeared normal the next morning. Military accuracy in the arrangement of the tools. The air's mixture of engine oil and coffee. However, yesterday's clash was highlighted by minor adjustments. Windows are boarded up and awaiting repair. Where bikes had fallen, the pavement was scraped. The surveillance equipment is now in plain sight. Detective Winchester put pictures on the workbench and said, "You should see this." They depicted members of Iron Serpents gathering in dimly lit parking areas to exchange briefcases with guys dressed in pricey suits. Blaze had a treasure trove on her phone. Stone Valley is not where these were photographed. Lauren looked at the pictures, making notes about places and trends. Chicago, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. all close to important transportation centers. Winchester pointed to a figure that appeared in several pictures, all of which depicted the same individual. Prominent, tall, and dressed in fitted suits that most likely cost more than Lauren's monthly salary. Former military intelligence officer Marcus Sullivan is currently the CEO of Strategic Security Solutions. Lauren mentioned a private military contractor. Memories of confidential briefings from her service days came flooding back. They offer corporate interests a broad security. Mike came in from the rear entrance. His expression was concerned. My drivers gave me further information. In 3 states, other motorcycle gangs are leaving towns. Nighttime operations abandonment. Not deserting, Lauren clarified. Shifting positions. In order to prevent us from documenting additional connections, they are attempting to erase evidence. The radio crackled with Walt's voice. At my parts store, Lauren attracted some intriguing clients. 2 non-federal men in suits are inquiring about you. Detective Winchester assumed they were corporate investigators. Damage control is most likely being handled by Strategic Security Solutions. Lauren went to her security feeds and observed the suited men from various camera positions, their movements, and how they looked around. Training in the military, of course. Emma yelled up from upstairs, "Mom! A strange vehicle is parked in front of my school. We're performing another fire drill," Elizabeth explains. Lauren's mouth clenched. Remain with Elizabeth. Adhere to the contingency plan we discussed. To Winchester. They are testing our defenses and probing us. Already? Mike had a troubled expression. The leaders of Iron Serpents aren't even processed yet. Because Iron Serpents is no longer the topic of this discussion. Lauren retrieved additional security feeds. Sullivan's business. Regarding their contracts, what do we know? Winchester looked at her journals. Transportation services, logistics assistance, and private security. On paper, everything is valid. But have a look at their list of clients. The names were striking. Big businesses, banks, and even governmental organizations. Lauren, however, noticed the pattern. Each client is linked to distribution networks, shipping routes, and transportation hubs. She saw that motorcycle gangs were being used as deniable assets. Local strength to keep corporate distance while controlling territory. Winchester said, the gangs take the fall if anything went wrong while layers of legal business continue to conceal the true operation. Lauren's cell rang. A message from an unknown number. Fantastic Iron Serpents work. Maybe we could talk about job openings. In a garage in a tiny town, your abilities are useless. An offer of employment. Lauren, however, understood the true meaning. Accept the reward or suffer the repercussions. She returned the kind. I have no desire to change occupations. Being a mechanic makes me very happy. The reaction was instantaneous. Think again. Future educational chances for their children should be considered by single mothers. Emma faced a subtle but obvious threat. When Lauren showed Winchester the interaction, her face stiffened. According to the detective, they're not even attempting to conceal it. Because they believe they are impervious to criticism. Lauren walked over to her workstation and carefully checked the equipment. Legitimate business fronts, political connections, and corporate power. They are accustomed to making issues go away. With anxiety, Mike glanced around. What is the play about? We can't use security cameras to catch these riders. No. Lauren gave a gloomy smile. They're worse. They are overconfident professionals who believe they are impervious to small-town residents. Iron Serpents made the same error. Walt came in with a distressed expression. Those outfits? All around town, they are asking questions. Requesting payment for your personal information. Lauren said it was standard intelligence collecting. They'll come up to everyone who assisted us. Look for pressure points. Winchester said she was already checking her phone. Received word from 3 different departments' contacts. Budget audits, administrative reviews, and odd meddling in ongoing cases. Mike recognized that they were separating us. Similar to Iron Serpents, but instead of using violence, they used paperwork. That's right. As more business cars pulled into Stone Valley, Lauren watched via her cameras. However, they overlook a crucial aspect of tiny communities. What is that? Everyone converses with mechanics. Every corrupt official, corrupt police officer, and business suit. Eventually, they all need their autos fixed. Furthermore, they never consider who might be listening. Once more, her phone buzzed. Sullivan sent another message. We'll meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. Your garage. Talk about agreements that will benefit both parties. Winchester saw the message from Lauren. They're going more quickly than I anticipated. How do we proceed? We prepare. Lauren started making changes to the design of her garage once more, but in a different way this time. Not for combat, but for a more subdued purpose. They will arrive believing they are interacting with local police officers and basic mechanics. It's time to prove to them why that presumption is consistently deadly. Because Iron Serpents had aired, and so had Sullivan's group. They believed they were going after a garage owner in a remote rural town. Rather, they were going to discover why certain mechanics are more knowledgeable about dismantling organizations than they are about engines. From upstairs, Emma's voice floated down. Mom. Can I assist with reorganizing the tools? Lauren grinned, understanding her daughter's expression when she inquired about her well-being. Yes, honey. Do you recall the lesson I gave you about being ready for significant meetings? Know more about them than they do about you at all times. That's right. Lauren watched as more business cars pulled into Stone Valley, all of them captured on camera by her expanding network of supporters. We'll demonstrate to them tomorrow why it's never a good idea to threaten a mother's child. As Sullivan believed he was there to engage in negotiations. He was instead stepping into yet another trap. One constructed with knowledge and community rather than with guns and strategies. Corporate power never really grasped the two things. Lauren had turned her garage into a new kind of battlefield by midday. Every piece of equipment, including the security cameras and microphones, had been placed with precision. This time, it's for documentation rather than protection. Are you certain about this? As he examined the concealed recording devices, Detective Winchester inquired. Sullivan has powerful supporters, including business attorneys and political contacts. We need to capture everything for precisely that reason. Lauren angled the polished surface of a wrench on her workstation so that it reflected the office door. Sullivan and others rely on deniability. The radio crackled with Mike's voice. On Highway 40, there was movement. Professional drivers, corporate plates, and 3 black SUVs. Perfect spacing is being maintained by them. Just in time, Lauren said. Are you in position, Walt? The roof of the parts store is transparent. All approaches had crisp lines. But we're not dealing with bikers, Lauren. These men are legitimately in charge. Legal does not equate to legitimate. Lauren looked at her timepiece. Unless there is an emergency, everyone should keep radio silence. Let's demonstrate to them what professionals from small towns look like. With meticulous precision, the SUVs arrived at her yard. There were 8 men. With their outfits barely covering tactical equipment, 6 security guards are assuming defensive positions. The 2 others went over to the garage. Marcus Sullivan had the gait of someone accustomed to authority. It's likely that the cost of his suit exceeded Lauren's monthly salary. He practiced and perfected his smile. The man next to him had the distinct aura of a high-priced attorney and a briefcase. Sullivan's voice was smooth and authoritative, Ms. Foster. We appreciate you coming to see us. I am Strategic Security Solutions CEO, Marcus Sullivan. This is our attorney, James Morton. Lauren pointed to her office while purposefully displaying her hands. Give them the impression that they were in charge. If you would like some coffee, it's fresh. With a well-practiced wave, Sullivan declined. I will be straightforward. How you handled the problem with the Iron Serpents was amazing. Expert. The type of strategic thinking that strategic security values. Just keeping my business safe. Lauren spoke in a neutral tone. She observed the positions of his security crew through the mirrors in the garage. They looked casual and were good at keeping clear fields of fire. Concerning that, Sullivan grinned. We're ready to present a substantial offer. 7 figures plus help with moving. In a garage in a tiny town, your abilities are useless. And if I'm content with my job as a mechanic? The lawyer, Morton, opened his briefcase. We've taken the time to look over your circumstances. Daughter on the verge of college, single mother, little income. Excellent educational gains are provided by strategic security. Lauren remarked on their emphal leadership. Another danger disguised as business etiquette. You seem to have done a lot of research. We're thorough, said Sullivan. For example, we are aware of your history with special forces. Your unique set of abilities. Abilities for which the commercial sector might pay more. Similar to the abilities you learned from other veterans. For instance, Blaze. Sullivan's grin wavered a little. We are barely concerned about Locke. Al criminal elements. We are a reputable company offering necessary security services. Really? Lauren went to her desk and took out a folder. Because these pictures depict your staff members meeting with leaders of the Iron Serpents in 3 different states. Dates, places, and recorded financial transactions. The attorney shifted uneasily. However, Sullivan remained calm at all times. Managing diverse local interests is part of corporate security. Everything is completely documented and lawful. Similar to the shipments via certain truck stops. The weapons passing via repair shops that have been compromised. The medications that are concealed in business supply serpents. Sullivan's smile vanished entirely now. Foster, be careful. Serious repercussions may result from baseless charges made against respectable companies. Unfounded. Lauren touched a button beneath her desk. All of the office's computer screens came to life, displaying surveillance footage. Your folks have had an extremely hectic schedule. Very careless as well. Strangers are noticed in small places. While repairing automobiles, mechanics hear sounds. Interesting shipments are seen by truckers. She observed Sullivan's security detail touching their earpieces and getting updates via covert cameras. They moved somewhat in their postures. From defensive to maybe attacking. You've established a remarkable operation, Lauren added. Utilizing lawful companies as a front and motorcycle gangs as debatable assets. Extremely competent. Until you made a crucial error. What is that, too? The sweetness in Sullivan's voice was lethal. You put my daughter in danger. I then made it my full-time job to document your entire organization. Morton talked rapidly. Any claimed proof would only be circumstantial. Not admissible. Perhaps, said Lauren with a smile. However, copies are already sent to a number of news outlets, agencies, and rival businesses. Everything that happens to me, my kid, or anybody else in Stone Valley is made public at once. Sullivan examined her more intently, re-evaluating the danger. You're engaging in risky behavior, Ms. Foster. Not a game. Just a mom defending her kid. And a mechanic with the ability to disassemble everything, including illegal businesses masquerading as corporations. Everybody has a cost, Sullivan remarked quietly. Give it a name. You've already attempted it with the leaders of Iron Serpents. How are things going for them? A little crack appeared in Sullivan's facade. Something more difficult was exposed as the well-worn corporate mask came off. Do you believe you can endanger my company? I have judges, legislators, and entire departments working for me. And I have records of all those relationships. The things individuals say in front of mechanics they consider to be background noise are astounding. Final opportunity. Now Sullivan's voice was icy. Accept the offer. Go somewhere cozy and disappear. Or learn about the unpleasantness of corporate litigation. It's funny. Lauren's grin was just as icy. Before I ruined their entire company, Iron Serpents made a similar statement. They were criminals. We are a reputable company. No, Lauren's face became stern. You're worse. You damage communities while hiding behind legitimate businesses. Iron Serpents, at least, admitted to being criminals. Sullivan stood, disregarding business etiquette. You have committed a grave error. One that your daughter will come to regret. Mr. Sullivan, that sounded like a threat. She walked in, recording device in hand, and heard Detective Winchester's voice coming from the doorway. For the record, would you mind clarifying? With well-honed efficiency, Sullivan's security detail went to stand between Detective Winchester and their boss. A knife may have eased the tension in Lauren's garage. Sullivan's polished business voice immediately came back, Detective Winchester. I fear that you have misinterpreted a confidential business conversation. Really? Winchester produced her recorder. Because the Strategic Security Solutions CEO sounded like he had just threatened a child. Any jurisdiction would consider such a major offense. The lawyer, Morton, came forward. Any recording produced without permission would not be allowed. Lauren interrupted, single-party consent laws exist in Stone Valley. Additionally, I have granted formal consent for law enforcement to monitor the property as the owner. Routine action following confirmed criminal threats. Sullivan's mask came off once more, revealing a moment of sincere rage. You are tinkering with forces that you do not comprehend. No, Lauren had a steely voice. It's you who doesn't comprehend. This has nothing to do with corporations or business. Here, a mother is defending her child. The rest is just a detail. Lauren used her covert cameras to observe Sullivan's security detail getting updates via their earpieces. Outside, something was going on. Via her hidden radio, Mike's voice crackled. There are several cars coming into town. These aren't suits, but they are corporate plates. Examining military contractors who are private. Sullivan gave a chilly smile. Speaking of specifics. At the moment, Stone Valley is undergoing a standard corporate security examination by my colleagues. Common practice for possible business investments. You mean the town is being threatened by your mercenaries? Winchester provided the translation. Similar to Iron Serpents. Iron Serpents was unpolished. Amateur. We'd rather have more advanced methods. Lauren walked over to her desk. Activating extra recording devices while ostensibly examining tools. Mr. Sullivan, how sophisticated is corporate sabotage? Monetary abuse? Taking aim at kids? Companies defend their interests, Sullivan said coolly. Demonstrating the cost of non-cooperation is sometimes necessary to achieve that. Lauren's radio picked up Walt's voice. Got 8 men into the parts store wearing military gear. Everything is being seized, including computers and records. Similar complaints began to come in from all around town. The contractors for Sullivan were working methodically. Thanks for everyone who had aided Lauren in her fight against Iron Serpents. Lauren noticed quietly that the response time was impressive. It was almost as if your assets were ready and waiting for directions. Sullivan straightened his necktie. Our ability to respond quickly to our clients' needs is maintained by Strategic Security Solutions. What customer placed the order for this procedure? Winchester insisted. That is under the purview of business confidentiality agreements. But don't worry, the appropriate authorities have given their full approval to our actions. Messages from Lauren's network buzzed on her phone. There were Sullivan's folks everywhere. Examining business licenses. Carrying out safety examinations. Looking over financial documents. A concerted effort to intimidate corporations. Sullivan said, "This is what's going to happen." There was a certain assurance in his voice. Your proof will be rejected. Your witnesses will experience both financial and personal hardships. Your resources will be depleted by legal disputes. Nothing against the law. Merely the inevitable results of conflicting business interests. Lauren said, like what happened in other towns. When the owners of strategic properties encountered financial difficulties, did your organization purchase them? Sullivan's gaze grew strained. You have been looking into us. I'm thorough, as you mentioned. Every municipality where transportation hubs were taken over by strategic security measures. Every company had to sell due to unexplained issues. Every official that abruptly shifted their stance on business propositions. Every commercial action is entirely lawful. Perhaps, but interesting stories are told by patterns. Similar to how your business constantly collaborated with nearby biker gangs before to relocating. This is Iron Serpents. Sons of the Devil in Oklahoma. Kansas's Steel Legion. The thread was picked up by Winchester. Every gang had commanders with military experience. All of them are engaging in the same takeover and intimidation tactics. Accusations without evidence, Morton said. Business operations are complicated. Keep the legal discourse until later. Lauren interrupted him. We both understand the true meaning of strategic security. An organized crime front with legitimacy. Use corporate power rather than gang affiliations. Sullivan examined her more intently than before. Do you know what happens to those who meddle in business affairs? They frequently have regrettable mishaps. Legal issues. Emergencies in the family. Like the abrupt loss of certification for Emma's school. Lauren asked in a low voice. Or the inexplicable rejection of her scholarship applications. These days, the criteria for education are extremely high. Lauren's voice stayed steady as her palm gripped her wrench more tightly. You're accustomed to others giving in. When you threaten their families, they give up. However, you committed a crucial tactical mistake. Really? Tell, please. You thought that I would give up out of fear of losing everything. It simply served as a reminder that I have nothing left to lose instead. Once more, Sullivan's security detail changed positions. In response to a quiet cue. More business cars were pulling into Stone Valley outside. Think carefully, remarked Sullivan quietly. The Iron Serpents was visible. Straightforward. We're more comprehensive. Your life might be complicated in every way. Any acquaintance may be subject to audits. Any ally can learn how costly business lawsuit can get. Winchester took a position next to Lauren. Mr. Sullivan, you're endangering a lot of witnesses. Quite daring for a person being investigated by the federal government. Sullivan did laugh. Federal probes are manageable. It is possible to persuade politicians. It is possible to discredit witnesses. Perhaps, Lauren said. But can your company's reputation hold up when everything you do is recorded? All threats noted. Is every connection vulnerable? She hit another button. More surveillance footage appeared on the TV screens in the garage. Iron Serpents chiefs meet with Sullivan's people. Transferring briefcases. Arranging activities. Lauren commented, it's amazing how many cameras there are in small towns these days. How many people take notice? How many mechanics fix vehicles while listening to fascinating conversations? Sullivan's calm exterior began to crumble. Do you believe that amateur videos could pose a threat to my organization? Lauren concluded, we have a board of directors that is very interested in maintaining corporate respectability, teams of lawyers, and unlimited resources. When this evidence is made public, I wonder how they will respond. When shareholders begin to inquire about possible illegal ties. You're engaging in risky behavior, Ms. Foster. Not a game. Just a mother demonstrating to a corporate why their worst error was to threaten her child. Sullivan put his corporate mask back on and straightened his tie. We'll communicate. Think carefully about your stance. Business conflicts can turn into sloppy. His security team moved with well-honed coordination as he turned to go. He stopped at the door. Finally, I would drive carefully throughout the coming weeks. Particularly when a youngster is present, brake failures can be incredibly unpredictable. As Sullivan and his people left, the threat lingered. Lauren saw their convoy retreat through her cameras, followed by the private military contractors who had been exerting pressure on the town. They'll return, Winchester said. You can count on it. Lauren started examining her security measures. However, they will be more tactful, businesslike, and law-abiding the next time. Updates from all over town buzzed through her phone. People had been startled by Sullivan's display of aggression. Owners of businesses were concerned. The allies were doubting their role. What is the play about? Winchester inquired. Iron Serpents is the same. While we record everything, we allow them to believe they are winning. However, we're not merely collecting criminal evidence this time. What are you saying? Lauren grinned glumly. We will present something even riskier to their shareholders, corporate clients, and board of directors. Negative publicity. Because Iron Serpents had made the same error as Sullivan. He believed he was interacting with ordinary small-town residents. Rather, he had just begun a conflict with someone who recognized that information was the most deadly weapon in the modern world. Lauren Foster has been learning how to use it for years. At dawn, Stone Valley was struck by the initial wave of Sullivan's corporate onslaught. Notifications that looked official were sent around town, and Lauren observed through her network. Evaluations of business licenses. Auditing of taxes. Inspections of building codes. Everything is quite lawful. Surgically aimed at her supporters. Walt reported on the radio on 4 agencies in one morning. They are using microscopes to examine my records. Even retrieved permits from 2 decades prior. Then Mike gave an update. My entire fleet of trucks was the subject of a normal safety review by the Department of Transportation. Vehicles are being grounded due to paint scuffs. While working on an engine, Lauren saw the harassment pattern. Despite the increasing pressure, her hands remained steady. Every company that had aided in the fight against Iron Serpents was simultaneously under bureaucratic attack. Mom. With concern evident in her eyes, Emma stood in the doorway of the office. The web page for my college application indicates that there is an issue with my submissions. Everything has vanished. Detective Winchester joined them and said, they're thorough. I just received word. Suddenly, every case I've worked on over the past 5 years has piqued the curiosity of internal affairs. With her thoughts already mapping countermoves, Lauren used a store rag to clean her hands. Sullivan is demonstrating his true strength. Not aggression. Bureaucracy. 1,000 paper cuts equal death. A message from an unlisted number buzzed through her phone. Complying with regulations can be very difficult. It would be a shame if your garage didn't pass the next inspection. One more buzz. There appear to be some troubling anomalies in Emma's academic records. Might have an impact on her chances of attending college. Winchester noted that they were attempting to isolate us. Set everyone up against us by causing them to suffer. No. Lauren had a steely voice. They're demonstrating to us how their business is run. All the agencies under their control. They have every official in their pocket. Their entire network is being made public. An alarm pinged on her PC. A standard fraud inquiry had resulted in the freezing of the garage's company account. Their insurance provider sent out a notice of policy review at the same time. Walt's voice crackled across the radio, "Lauren. The State Business Board arrived just now. My license is being suspended due to administrative issues." Similar reports came pouring in. The business community in Stone Valley was being methodically choked by Sullivan's corporate apparatus. Everything is quite lawful. All meticulously recorded. All in an effort to illustrate the price of resistance. Lauren went to the computer in her office. Fingers swoop across the keyboard. "Do you recall the Iron Serpents evidence file we put together, Detective? It's time to use it in a new way." "How?" "Sullivan is attacking us by utilizing respectable companies. When his corporate clients find out about his illegal links, we'll see how they respond." She started forwarding meticulously crafted materials to business ethics boards, regulatory bodies, and news outlets. Not charges. Only inquiries concerning corporate operations, community relations, and strategic securities. "You're luring him in," Winchester thought. "He anticipates us fending off the individual assaults. We're targeting his corporate image instead. Businesses like him cannot afford to lose this one thing." Once more, her phone buzzed. "Sullivan. It's an impressive approach, but managing a company's reputation is an art. One that we have mastered." Lauren pressed another button in response. Local company owners started posting recordings of corporate contractors harassing small enterprises, articles regarding strategic securities, and documentation of questionable trends in real estate purchases on social media. Lauren clarified that they are attacking us through official channels. "We'll attack them with public opinion. More than they detest losing money, corporate boards detest negative publicity." Emma delivered additional school-related news. "According to Elizabeth, men in suits are looking at student records. Their attention is on my file." Lauren drew her kid closer. "Do you recall the lesson I gave you about bullies wearing suits? They are no different from ordinary bullies. They are only effective if you allow them to frighten you." "That's right. And when bullies attempt to frighten us, what should we do? Keep a record of everything and demonstrate their true actions to everyone." Lauren grinned with pride. Her daughter had done well at school. Mike's voice crackled on the radio in the garage. My contacts informed Lauren. Other municipalities are seeing similar attempts at corporate takeover. The same motif. Once the target has been softened by motorcycle gangs, strategic security steps in. Lauren said, "Send me the details. Names, times, and places. It's time to demonstrate to Sullivan's board what their CEO is actually creating." Winchester's cell rang. "I'm being suspended by internal affairs while they conduct an inquiry." Anticipated. Already, Lauren was changing her approach. If someone with official authority assists us, they will attempt to discredit them. We're not battling through the proper channels because of this. Sullivan's attacks were still being reported by her network. Licenses for businesses are suspended. Bank accounts are frozen. Insurance plans were terminated. 1,000 bureaucratic cuts will kill you. However, Lauren's retaliation was also gaining ground. Questions concerning the commercial practices of strategic security were common on social media. Local news outlets started looking at business harassment trends. Professional associations began examining Sullivan's business practices. "Mom." From the workplace, Emma called. "Children are sharing stories about strategic security on my social media. They're bullying little businesses, and everyone is talking about it." Lauren grinned glumly. Although Sullivan had authority over formal channels, he was powerless over public opinion. Particularly when each of his attacks yielded additional proof of corporate malfeasance. For the last time, her phone buzzed. Sullivan once more. You're getting in the way of business operations. There are repercussions for that. She returned the kind. You're correct. Find out what your board of directors thinks about popular social media topics. Because Sullivan had committed yet another crucial error. He believed that dominating official channels was a prerequisite for corporate dominance. However, authority was not limited to formal outlets in today's globe. Lauren. Winchester gestured to the screen of her computer. The stock price of strategic security is declining. Concerns regarding community relations are being questioned by shareholders. According to Lauren, corporate boards detest public relations issues. They are capable of managing criminal investigations. To handle those, their attorneys are compensated. However, what is the general consensus? Controlling that is more difficult. Updates from her network buzzed over the radio. Sullivan persisted in his attacks. All of them are entirely lawful. They were all well targeted. However, his actions now contributed to the mounting public proof of corporate malfeasance. Winchester cautioned that he would not stop. Men like Sullivan are incapable of surrendering. You can count on it. As Lauren watched more business cars pull into Stone Valley, she looked at her security monitors. He must now battle on two fronts, though. Destroying us and preserving his company's reputation. To show Lauren the latest social media posts, Emma took her laptop. Videos of small companies being harassed by strategic security contractors were going viral. Questions were beginning to come from corporate news outlets. Winchester recognized that you had planned this. Worked against him using his own strategies. According to Sullivan, authority stems from commanding official channels. Lauren observed her daughter posting more tales on the internet. However, he overlooked a crucial aspect of small towns. What is that? Everyone converses with everyone. Every tale is told. Every injustice is brought to light. Furthermore, public disclosure poses a greater risk in the modern world than any formal investigation. Because Sullivan was no longer only battling a mechanic from a little town. Armed with cell phones, social media profiles, and intimate knowledge of corporate malfeasance, he was up against an entire community. Lauren Foster was going to demonstrate to him why even corporate power couldn't correct the kind of error that involved endangering her daughter's future. The following morning, Stone Valley was hauntingly silent. Too silent. As Lauren opened her garage, she became aware of it. No delivery vans. No early clients. No typical early traffic. Through bureaucratic tactics, Sullivan's business machine had successfully placed the town under quarantine. Most recent information. There were documents all over the workbench, according to Winchester. The Board of Strategic Security convened an urgent meeting. Following the viral success of those videos, their shares fell 15%. Lauren checked her security feeds and studied the paperwork. That won't sit well with Sullivan. He and other men are more concerned with the company's reputation than with its actual legitimacy. Within hours, her prediction came true. A convoy of high-end vehicles arrived in town. It was professional crisis management teams instead of Sullivan's typical company security. PR experts. Consultants for the media. Professionals in damage control. Mike said over the radio that they were setting up at the town hall. Referring to it as a community service project. Providing grants for business growth. Sponsorships for education. Lauren interpreted by purchasing silence. Standard business strategy. Break down opposition, then provide relief if individuals comply. Walt's voice came through with a crack. At my parts store, I have company reps, they're proposing to sign some paperwork to fix our regulatory problems. Primarily non-disclosure agreements. Across town, similar reports were received. The pace of strategic security was rapid. Attempting to limit the harm to public perception. Every company that was being attacked by bureaucrats was being given an escape route, if they accepted specific terms. Sullivan had left Lauren a new message, and her phone buzzed. Your social media campaign is impressive. Corporate resources, however, are limitless. Everybody has a cost. She saw additional costly cars enter through her cams. One element of Sullivan's counterattack was carried by each. Attorneys who have offered settlements. Consultants who offer suggestions for development. Professionals with answers to issues that were unexpectedly identified. Emma yelled up from upstairs, "Mom! The college website is operational once more. Additionally, I received letters offering unique corporate scholarships from 3 universities." Winchester observed that they are thorough. Now that the sticks were useless, they were offering carrots. Lauren went to her computer to keep an eye on the expansion of corporate power. Sullivan believes he can purchase what he is unable to threaten. He will thus lose. How do you calculate? Because little communities are still a mystery to him. He believes that everyone has a cost. That anything can be resolved with enough money. Iron Serpents' failure never taught him the most crucial lesson. What is it? Not everything is for sale. Like the spirit of a community. As Sullivan's crisis management organization grew throughout Stone Valley, her network continued to report. Every company owner was contacted. All pressure points are addressed. All issues are instantly resolved. For the appropriate signatures on the appropriate documents. Lauren? Mike sounded concerned. They offer to take care of all of my trucking licenses. Included business shipping contracts as well. Signing some confidentiality agreements is all I need to do. The same here, Walt said. If I agree to refrain from discussing strategic securities community development projects, they will resolve my license concerns. Winchester looked at her phone. All of a sudden, internal affairs stopped caring about my cases. Instead, I was given a promotion to a special corporate liaison unit. As Sullivan's troops worked the town, Lauren kept an eye on things via her security feeds. They performed well. Expert. Courteous. Provide precisely what each individual most needed. Their release from the burden of bureaucratic bombardment seemed like a gift from God. However, she also noticed something else. The right to discuss strategic securities activity had to be signed away for each offer. Every solution had conditions attached to it that would force the people to keep quiet. Once more, her phone buzzed. Sullivan. Your neighbors are acting sensibly. Astute entrepreneurs recognize the importance of company collaboration. Lauren returned the type. Gaining trust is not the same as purchasing silence. Trust is costly, was the response. However, the resources for strategic securities are limitless. Cooperation may benefit everyone. Lauren saw more townspeople approaching the town hall and business outreach center through her cameras. They all came out with documents to sign. Issues to resolve. Chances to take advantage of. If they only consented to specific conditions. Winchester noted, they're wearing people down. Any relief seems welcome after weeks of bureaucratic pressure. That's the plan, said Lauren. Use papers to crush resistance. Then use corporate benevolence to provide salvation. Make everyone silent in order to gain complicity. Emma emerged in the doorway of the office. According to Elizabeth, they offered to pay for our entire science department. Everything is new, including lab equipment and computers. The principal is ecstatic. Lauren grinned glumly. Regarding the terms of the contract, what did Elizabeth say? That the youth development program at Strategic Securities would need to collaborate with the school. Allow them to view student records so they can plan their careers. That's right. They're not merely purchasing quiet. They are purchasing control. Get in. Impact on the following generation. More updates crackled on her radio. Sullivan's staff were everywhere, providing answers to the issues caused by his own company. The contrast was precisely calibrated. Grateful release after crushing pressure. Lauren, however, noticed the pattern. Every contract, agreement, and business alliance was just one more link in a serpents of command. Avoiding negative publicity was not the only goal of strategic security. Their goal was to control the entire town. For the last time, her phone buzzed. Think carefully about your position, Sullivan. Your neighbors are embracing the truth. Don't allow your daughter's pride ruin her future. Winchester saw the message from Lauren. He still believes that purchasing conformity is the goal here. Is it not? Lauren, these are good offerings. Actual fixes for actual issues. No. Lauren's tone became stern. These are lifelines that are actually serpents. The town becomes increasingly reliant on corporate benevolence with each signature. They gain more authority with each agreement. Moving to her security monitors, she observed the work being done by Sullivan's teams. They did a fantastic job of recognizing problem points, providing ideal remedies, and presenting corporate control as a collaborative effort with the community. However, they had committed a crucial error. They believed that manipulating appearances and purchasing the appropriate silence at the appropriate cost were the main goals of public relations. Lauren pressed a button on her computer and stated, "It's time to show them what true community relations looks like." A new narrative began making the rounds on social media, local news, and business networks. Now it's about business conquest, not corporate harassment. About how little towns weren't the only targets of strategic security. Their goal was to possess them. Because Sullivan had overlooked a crucial aspect of contemporary media. In certain cases, the crime was less harmful than the cover-up. Lauren Foster would soon demonstrate to him why attempting to purchase a town's silence was worse publicity than attempting to scare it. A new stage of the Stone Valley conflict was beginning. One in which Sullivan's greatest asset, public image, was used as a weapon in addition to corporate funds and governmental authority. And this time, he was up against an opponent who knew exactly how to turn his own strategies against him, and he was fighting on unfamiliar ground. Lauren's most recent action prompted Sullivan to act quickly. The crisis management team from Strategic Security had converted the town hall into a media center by mid-morning, complete with expert spokespersons and satellite trucks. According to Winchester, who followed the action via Lauren's security feeds, press announcements regarding community investment projects, and interviews regarding rural development programs, they're going full corporate defensive. Lauren kept an eye on things while working diligently on a truck engine. Normal damage control. Attempted to reinterpret corporate takeover as a kind of economic growth. While Sullivan's media machine went into overdrive, her network continued to report. Representatives of Strategic Security deluged local press outlets with well-crafted remarks. Comprehensive ideas regarding corporate community relationships were submitted to business magazines. Mom. From the workplace, Emma called. On social media, you're trending. People are telling your story. Strategic Security operates not only here but in neighboring towns as well. Lauren grinned a little. Although Sullivan had authority over official channels, he had no control over hundreds of small-town individuals who shared their stories about business relationships. Her cell rang. Sullivan once more. Excellent use of the media. However, corporate public relations is a game played by professionals. One that we excel in playing. Lauren watched as additional media vehicles pulled up through her security cameras. Heavyweights were being brought in by Strategic Security. Professional crisis consultants, reputation management specialists, and corporate communications experts. Mike's voice crackled across the radio, Lauren. Interviews with local business owners are being offered. Would you like to discuss the advantages of corporate investment in small towns? The same here, Walt said. They want us to sign their talking points agreement in exchange for top media coverage. Winchester looked at her phone. I just received word. The Board of Strategic Security convened another urgent meeting. Stocks are down 20% more. Lauren walked over to her computer and watched her counter-narrative unfold. Real tales from real communities were being presented in response to every corporate press release. Every practiced assertion was refuted by real-world examples. They have no idea what they're up against, she told Winchester. In reality, this is about truth against corporate spin, but Sullivan believes it is about media management. As Strategic Security's public relations engine rumbled into Stone Valley, her network kept up its reports. They were experts at creating catchy soundbites, setting up picture-perfect situations, and projecting a faultless corporate image. However, something wasn't functioning. Cell phone footage of business intimidation accompanied every well-rehearsed interview. Every well-crafted remark was in conflict with known harassment trends. Elizabeth's voice added to the radio noise, Lauren. An emergency meeting is being called by the school board. A significant technological grant is being offered by Strategic Security. Lauren asked, knowing the answer beforehand, but with caveats. Complete business collaboration. They desire access to career development programs, curricular input, and student records. Winchester said, control the schools, control the future. They have a long-term perspective. While Sullivan's squads worked the town, Lauren kept an eye on her feeds. They were very good at what they did, controlling media narratives, influencing public opinion, and converting corporate dominance into collaboration with the community. However, they had committed yet another grave error. They believed that managing the message was the goal of public relations. They never realized that the goal was to control the truth. Sullivan had left her another message, and her phone buzzed. Your campaign on social media is amateurish. Our company image is managed by expert professionals. Lauren returned the type. How are things going with that? The stock has now dropped 35%. The reaction was instantaneous. Corporate resources are limitless. Any publicity crisis can be outlasted by us. Really? Find out what your board thinks about the widely circulated films showing corporate contractors posing a threat to small businesses. Lauren saw Sullivan himself arrive at the media center through her cameras. His typically composed demeanor was broken. The movement is a little too harsh, and the tie is a little off-center. Winchester noted that he was feeling the strain. Lauren concurred that for individuals like him, the company's reputation is crucial. They are capable of managing criminal investigations as well as administrative and legal challenges. Disasters in public relations, however, have the power to ruin careers. As Sullivan seized charge of the media response, her network continued to report. He was competent, polished, and exuded ideal corporate leadership. However, every claim he made was promptly refuted by proof of the actual operations of Strategic Security. Emma yelled up from upstairs, "Mom!" Now, students at other schools are telling stories of student monitoring initiatives and corporate ties. Lauren grinned glumly. Sullivan had overlooked an important aspect of contemporary media. Smartphone-wielding teenagers were more influential than business public relations departments. Mike's voice crackled on the radio. My contacts in the transportation industry told Lauren. Other locations where Strategic Security is in place are reporting similar incidents. Now everyone is talking. They never understood that, Lauren said to Winchester. Real silence is no longer something you can purchase. Not when everybody can speak. Her security feeds revealed Sullivan's mounting annoyance as his flawless business story fell apart. There were a dozen conflicting stories for every news release. The unofficial truth contradicts every official assertion. Winchester checked her sources before reporting, they're calling in bigger guns. Professional media management teams and corporate crisis specialists are arriving by plane from New York. They're fighting the wrong battle, so it won't matter, Lauren declared with assurance. They believe that this has to do with information control. The main goal is to reveal the truth. For the last time, her phone buzzed. You don't know what you're up against, Sullivan. Managing a company's reputation is a complex game. Lauren pressed another button in response. More proof surfaced on social media, news networks, and corporate channels. Their entire corporate conquest strategy, not simply minor town takeovers and strategic security. For Sullivan had committed the ultimate corporate error. Public relations, he believed, was about handling negative news. He never realized it was about stopping horrible things from happening. The Stone Valley fight was no longer a local struggle. It was now a fight for corporate truth, waged with actual experiences and genuine stories rather than media pronouncements and press releases. Lauren Foster was going to demonstrate to Sullivan why it was pointless to try to control the story when you couldn't control the facts. Because some voices could not be purchased, some stories could not be controlled, and some errors could not be concealed. Regardless of the amount of business resources you directed them. Stone Valley was no longer only battling a company. They were bringing to light a reality that could not be concealed by expert public relations. And the one thing that even corporate power couldn't control in today's interconnected globe was the truth. Strategic security solutions were hit like a tsunami by the morning news. Stories of corporations taking over little villages were broadcast on major networks. Their operational techniques were questioned by business channels. First-person reports of harassment and intimidation became viral on social media. According to Winchester, who was keeping an eye on financial news, stocks were plunging 60% lower than when the markets began. Trading may be halted. Through her security feeds, Lauren observed Sullivan's crisis management team forsaking their well-planned news briefings in favor of hasty damage control. Too many true tales were causing the corporate propaganda machine to collapse. Mike's voice crackled across the radio. Lauren. I recently received word from my contacts. Clients of Strategic Securities are beginning to inquire. Security contracts are being reviewed by large corporations. Sullivan's reaction was quick and frantic. A fresh contingent of business cars pulled into Stone Valley. This time, it's private contractors with a military flair rather than public relations staff. They were lacking in practice as they went about town, confiscating laptops, phones, and other devices that have the ability to record or exchange data. Winchester noted that they are attempting to halt the spread. But it's too late. It's all out there already. An urgent message from Elizabeth buzzed through Lauren's phone. They are at the school and are requesting access to the phones and computers of the students. Referring to it as a security evaluation. Emma yelled up from upstairs, Mom. I'm having my social media accounts closed. Some infringement of company rules. Lauren grinned glumly. They continue to believe that this has to do with information control. They're not understanding. The story is already too huge for them to handle. Similar activities were reported throughout the town by her network. Contractors for Strategic Securities were making a concerted effort to block any communication. However, 10 additional accounts that shared the same stories surfaced for every one they closed. Lauren. Walt sounded tense. I have cease and desist orders from corporate lawyers here. Threatening to prosecute us for defamation if we don't take back our remarks. Winchester looked at her phone. Other towns follow the same path. A legal attempt was made by Strategic Securities to intimidate everyone who raised their voice. Lauren walked over to her computer, keeping an eye on the growing conflict. Sullivan's company was engaged in too many battles. Attempting to protect against national exposure while keeping local stories under control. Attempting to control corporate consequences while silencing individuals. Once more, her phone buzzed. Sullivan. You don't know what you did. The board is calling for action. Today marks the conclusion of this. Lauren saw more contractors come in through her webcams. Military accuracy is no longer concealed by their maneuvers. Sullivan was turning to direct action instead of corporate illusion. Winchester observed that he is desperate. When their empire is at peril, business executives become dangerous. No, Lauren clarified. He is predictable. Relying on his knowledge. Coercion and threats. Similar to what Iron Serpents did. Strategic security contractors were moving into positions throughout the town, according to her security feeds. Checkpoints were being set up. Regulating motion. Establishing a lockdown while claiming that it is necessary for business security. Mom. There was concern in Emma's voice. At school, internet access is being blocked. They're referring to it as network maintenance, Elizabeth explains. Lauren saw Sullivan himself pull up to the temporary headquarters they had set up. His flawless business persona was crumbling. The suit was wrinkled. Untie. Sharp movements and barely contained anger. Winchester said, "They're going to try something." Sullivan is one of those men who never give up. You can count on it. Lauren started turning on the backup systems she had set up weeks earlier. However, he is repeating Iron Serpents' error. Believing he can use force to take over a community. As strategic securities contractors carried out their lockdown, her network continued to report. They were competent. Effective. Asserting control by using corporate authority rather than gang patches. Lauren, however, also noticed something else. Each violent act. Every corporate intimidation attempt. Every harsh move was being captured on tape. Now, hundreds of residents with covert phones and cameras are using them, in addition to her networks. Lauren. Mike's voice came through with a crack. Trucking contacts told me. Large news teams are attempting to get to Stone Valley. Road access is blocked by strategic security. As Lauren saw Sullivan organize his men, she remarked, "They think they can contain this. They're not understanding. A tale will only spread more quickly if you try to stop it." Another Sullivan message appeared on her phone. One last caution. Put a stop to the spread of information. Or we show why motorcyclists are less dangerous than corporate security contractors. Lauren pressed another button in response. More evidence started to surface around the nation. They now take over their entire business, not just strategic securities in small towns. Financial documentation. Memos from within. Patterns of corruption that have been documented. You got all of this from where? Winchester inquired, observing the deluge of data. Mechanics talk to people, Lauren replied plainly. Business drivers in particular. It's incredible what you hear when repairing automobiles. Sullivan's response was captured in the security feeds as well. As he saw his corporate empire fall apart under the weight of the revealed truth, his composure finally broke. Winchester reported urgently, incoming. Several business cars. These aren't typical contractors or public relations firms. Through her cameras, Lauren saw black SUVs pull into Stone Valley. The men that came out moved with deadly accuracy. Elite security for corporations. The kind applied to unique issues. Lauren calmly pointed out that he was playing his final card. Use direct force as a last resort when corporate power fails. Alerts from all over town crackled on her radio. Elite teams in strategic securities were acting methodically. Focusing on anyone who had disclosed details regarding their activities. Mom. Despite the dread, Emma's voice remained steady. According to Elizabeth, they will be visiting the school. Searching for particular pupils. Do you recall the contingency plan? Lauren inquired. The one we rehearsed. Sure, but Mom. Do you really think they can't prevent us from speaking the truth? Lauren grinned with pride. Honey, that's precisely what they don't get. You cannot use force to control the truth. Story by story, it spreads from person to person. until corporate power can no longer control it. She observed with her cameras as Sullivan used military precision to command his troops. This was a tactical operation that he was planning. Control important points, stifle criticism, and exhibit overwhelming power. However, he had overlooked an important aspect of contemporary conflict. Trying to control information by force was like trying to hold back the tide with your hands in a world where communication is instantaneous. Because the battle for strategic security was no longer limited to a single little town. They were opposing a concept that had gained international recognition. People's worst concerns of unbridled power were echoed by this story of corporate corruption. Lauren Foster was going to demonstrate to Sullivan why it was like attempting to shoot a hurricane to send armed contractors against a town full with truth. Conventional weaponry were unable to stop these forces. Particularly when thousands of voices telling their stories propelled those forces. In the early hours of the morning, Lauren's garage had turned into a stronghold. Not with weapons or barriers, but with planning and placement. Every piece of evidence, camera, and recording gadget was prepared for what was about to happen. According to Winchester, they're relocating as Sullivan's top contractors take up residences throughout the city. Typical tactical confinement. This isn't your typical security. Previously, these were special operations. Checking her security feeds, Lauren remarked calmly that Blaze was just like her. When corporate power fails, Sullivan resorts to military mentality. As strategic security teams carried out their lockdown, her network continued to report. They secured strategic locations across Stone Valley with deadly efficiency. Roads were blocked, houses were searched, and communications were shut off. Mom. Lauren's covert radio carried Emma's voice. According to Elizabeth, they are searching the school for computers, phones, and other devices that have the ability to record. Lauren told her to stay with Elizabeth. As we practiced, adhere to the backup plan precisely. She saw Sullivan himself, accompanied by his most prestigious contractors, walk up to her garage through her cameras. Cold rage had taken the place of his corporate facade. He yelled, "Ms. Foster, this is your last warning. Put an end to this now. Take the stories back. Stop the flow of information, or we show why corporate security functions outside of the bounds of the law." In response, Lauren turned on her final round of recordings. New evidence surfaced on social media, news networks, and corporate channels. Sullivan's direct commands for murder and intimidation are hardly the only instances of strategic security's corruption. Do you think this can be stopped by some videos? Sullivan insisted. We have complete operational autonomy and limitless resources. No, Lauren's voice was audible. You're desperate. Everything that provided you actual authority has been taken away from you, including corporate support and narrative control. Force is your last remaining option. Winchester took a position next to her. Lauren, they will not back down. They're killers, these contractors. I am aware that's just what we required of them. Lauren saw additional business cars pull up through her security feeds. Using every resource at their disposal, strategic security was working to put a stop to the story. Mom. Emma's voice came through with a crack. As you mentioned, even though the contractors are going through each room one by one, everyone's phones are still filming. Lauren grinned glumly. Sullivan had overlooked an important aspect of contemporary warfare. It was impossible to prevent anyone from recording. You couldn't stop the truth from getting out. Each use of force only produced more proof. Sullivan told his teams to stop now. Locate every gadget and information-sharing individual. Turn everything off. However, Lauren's network continued to disseminate the narrative even after his contractors relocated. Every violent act, every suppression attempt, and every corporate threat was being recorded and disseminated throughout the world. Mike's voice reached Lauren. The story has been picked up by national media. An emergency meeting of the Strategic Securities Board is being called. Trading in the stock has been paused. It buzzed on Sullivan's phone. As he read the message, his face turned pale. "Have you done anything?" "Nothing," said Lauren coolly. "You just demonstrated your true self to the world. When money and persuasion don't work, a corporate bully resorts to force." She observed his top contractors using her cameras to search buildings, seize gadgets, and show off their strength. But they demonstrated her argument with each action. Each act of violence supported the allegations of corporate wrongdoing. "Do you believe that this will stop us?" The tone of Sullivan's voice was lethal. "We've dealt with resistance before. Accidents can happen in communities. Schools may catch fire. Mechanics may vanish." Lauren replied softly to Winchester, "There it is. The last error. Threatening violence in front of the world." Because Lauren's systems were no longer the only ones recording Sullivan's threats. His statements were being streamed live from hundreds of concealed phones. His corporate facade breaking down into blatant anger was being exposed by international media. "Mom." Emma spoke steadily. "Members of the Strategic Securities Board are stepping down, according to Elizabeth. Contract cancellations are occurring with their big clients." Once more, Sullivan's phone buzzed. As he read the message, what little calm he still had was broken. Boards are directing that all operations be suspended immediately. Federal agents are raiding corporate offices. Lauren said, "It's amazing how quickly corporate support disappears when violence goes public, when your true self is revealed to the world." Sullivan realized, "You planned this. Everything. The campaign on social media. The publicity for the company. The attention from around the world. You wanted us to respond violently." Lauren concurred, "Because force was all you really had. Take off the corporate facade. The respectable business front. The image of professionalism. You're simply another bully attempting to use violence to stifle the truth." The alerts flashed on Winchester's phone. Tactical teams from the federal government are arriving. State police as well. The corporate authority of strategic securities was been revoked. Sullivan's gaze wandered, observing the breakdown of his flawless operation. His workers awaited directives. Lauren's weapon rendered their military training ineffective. Verified facts supported by international attention. Lauren said gently, "It's over. Your board is trembling. Your customers are running away. The collapse of your corporate empire. All because you have never grasped the true source of power in the modern society." "What is that, too?" Sullivan growled. "The truth. Spread through the stories of regular people. Corporate force cannot stop it, and corporate money cannot purchase it." Lauren observed FBI vehicles drive up to Stone Valley through her security feeds. Sullivan's top contractors were lowering themselves. Now that the world was looking, their tactical advantage was useless. "Mom." Emma spoke with pride. "Our tale is trending worldwide, according to Elizabeth. Everyone is talking about how a corrupt corporation was defeated by a little village." Lauren grinned. Because Sullivan never understood that. Information cannot be controlled in the same way as land. Truth cannot be silenced by force. No more. For the last time, Sullivan's phone chimed. As he read the message, his face turned pale. "My position was terminated by boards. Corporate accounts have been suspended. Legal teams are ceasing to represent clients." Lauren said, "It's amazing how quickly corporate power evaporates when the truth comes out, when the professional facade is revealed to the world." Now federal agents were coming in. Relocating to protect the town. Sullivan's contractors gave up without a fight. They were informed by their military training when a fight was lost. "You ruined everything," Sullivan muttered. "Years of establishing political ties, legal business fronts, and corporate dominance. Everything is gone." "No," he was told by Lauren. "It was destroyed by you. By believing that the truth could be controlled by force. By putting a mother's child in danger. By failing to remember that everyone has a voice in the modern world. And everybody is observing. For Sullivan had committed the ultimate corporate error. He believed that force, money, and influence were the sources of power. He never realized that truth was the source of true power. And no amount of corporate resources could control the fact once it was out. Stone Valley had prevailed in its conflict without resorting to force or bloodshed. But using the most potent weapon available today. Thousands of voices spread the documented fact. Furthermore, Lauren Foster had demonstrated to the business community why the final error strategic security would ever make was to endanger her daughter. Over Stone Valley, dawn arrived, illuminating the sky with hues of triumph. As television helicopters circled overhead, federal officials processed the remaining contractors of Sullivan. What began as a dispute in a tiny village turned out to be one of the biggest corporate corruption scandals in modern times. In Lauren's garage office, Winchester reviewed reports and said, "Final numbers coming in." Investigations into 37 other companies were prompted by the failure of strategic security. Their whole crooked system is coming apart. As media crews gathered outside, Lauren continued her routine, working diligently on a truck engine. What number of towns were they aiming for? So far, more than 50 have been identified. They're all in the same pattern. Prior to corporate takeover, motorcycle gangs softened their targets. Everyone is now sharing their stories, though. The radio crackled with Mike's voice. My trucking contacts informed me. Other businesses, such as strategic security, are ceasing to exist. No one wishes to take the same exposure risk. Lauren followed Stone Valley's metamorphosis via her security feeds. Evidence is being documented by federal investigators. Residents are being interviewed by news teams. Other communities' corporate victims are coming to share their stories. Emma yelled up from upstairs, "Mom! My social media accounts are blowing up. Children from all over the world are telling their school stories about corporate collaborations. You're being referred to as a hero." Lauren wiped her hands on a towel and clarified, "No heroes. Just a group of people who wouldn't be quiet." Walt came in the rear door, looking content but exhausted. "See the town hall, please. Every business contract is being examined. Every formal transaction is being looked into. It's similar to watching cockroaches scatter after turning on lights." Winchester looked at her phone. Nationwide, the trend is similar. The breakdown of strategic security is revealing corruption everywhere. Company boards, city governments, and police departments. Everyone who accepted corporate funding is under investigation. Lauren went to her computer to keep an eye on the growing impact. The thread that, when tugged, untangled a whole tapestry of corporate wrongdoing had been Sullivan's organization. Elizabeth's voice added to the radio noise, "Lauren. All business cooperation initiatives are being cancelled by school boards. All of them, not just strategic security. Transparency reviews are being demanded by parents. Because the pattern is finally seen," Lauren explained. How companies conceal illegitimate control through genuine firms. How they use schools to shape the next generation. As the story grew, her network continued to report. There were new corporate corruption exposures, probes, and revelations every hour. The collapse of strategic security had set off a national awakening. "Mom." Emma showed up in the doorway of the garage. "According to Elizabeth, reporters are interested in speaking with me about the attempts by corporations to exert influence over our institution." Lauren proudly studied her daughter. "It's up to you, honey. Just keep in mind the lesson I gave you about speaking truth to power. That doing the right thing is more important than having courage." Lauren saw more tourists arrive at Stone Valley through her photos. Now it's representatives from different communities, not government agents or corporate contractors. Local leaders, small-town company owners, and regular citizens looking for advice on combating corporate corruption. Winchester pointed out that they are referring to it as the Stone Valley Model. Fighting corporate power through public exposure and documented truth. Beyond simply defeating strategic security, you've begun something greater. A message from a secured government line buzzed through Lauren's phone. Sullivan is speaking. Sacrificing everything. Illegal activities, political ties, and corporate plots. He was totally broken by your proof. Lauren answered, because we did more than just reveal his crimes. We reveal the reality of corporate power. How dread and stillness are essential. Mike's voice could be heard. Lauren. At my truck yard, I had company reps. This time, it's a different kind. Inquiring about forming moral business alliances with nearby communities. They're afraid, Winchester noted. Being the next strategic security is something that every big company fears. Good, answered Lauren decisively. Regulations are less effective than the fear of exposure. Businesses act differently when they are aware that everyone is looking. Walt's parts store had similar problems. The corporate culture was changing from one of intimidation to one of sincere collaboration. The power dynamic was entirely altered by the possibility of public disclosure. Emma called down, Mom. Students at other colleges are inquiring about ways to shield themselves from the influence of corporations. Are we able to assist them? Lauren grinned. The most crucial lesson had been imparted to her daughter. That combating corruption was about educating others to defend themselves, not simply about winning one battle. That's the true triumph, she informed Winchester. Showing people they can fight back is just as important as exposing a single corporate. That truth is more powerful than force or money. Lauren saw Stone Valley change through her security feeds. Determination took the place of the terror. Small companies confidently reopened. A common victory strengthens ties within the community. Elizabeth's voice was excited, Lauren. You ought to visit the school. Children are learning to look into corporate influence, forming journalism clubs, and forming transparency committees. Because they've witnessed it work, Lauren said with pride. Observed how corporate power may be defeated by speaking the truth. As the impact grew, her network kept reporting. Lauren's plan was being adopted by other municipalities in different ways. Communities were interacting, exchanging information, and keeping an eye out for indications of corporate wrongdoing. You've made a difference, Winchester muttered. It's everywhere, not just here. Businesses can no longer function in secrecy. Not when everyone is prepared to lay them bare. Lauren watched as federal officials processed the final piece of evidence as she made her way to her garage door. Sullivan believed that money and coercion were the sources of corporate power. The true source of strength eluded him. What is that? Community. The truth. The bond between those who will not be silenced. She looked over at Winchester. Strategic security has never comprehended that. A community's soul cannot be purchased. People's voices cannot be silenced. No more. Because Stone Valley had demonstrated something potent to the world. Exposure of corporate corruption was inevitable. The documented truth, disseminated by regular people, was more powerful than force or money. At the garage door, Emma accompanied her mother. Are they going to write history books about us? In reference to how a tiny community defeated a large corporation? Perhaps. Lauren gave her daughter a hug. But defeating them isn't the essential narrative. Teaching others to advocate for themselves is the goal. About demonstrating to the world the importance of truth. Because that's what Stone Valley's victory truly left behind. Exposing the corruption of a single firm while also developing a model for combating corporate dominance globally. A model based on the most potent weapon in the contemporary arsenal rather than on force or violence. The voices of thousands spread the truth. No amount of corporate resources could stop it. At first, Lauren Foster had just been concerned about keeping her kids safe. In the end, she demonstrated to the world how to combat corporate corruption. Another firm in America was about to discover why it was the last thing they would ever do to threaten the wrong tiny town. Lauren's garage had evolved from a repair business to something more than that a month after strategic security collapsed. The office had evolved into an unofficial command center for communities combating corporate wrongdoing, even as she continued to fix trucks with military accuracy. Winchester, who was updating the map on Lauren's wall, said that 3 additional towns reported business pullbacks this morning. Businesses gave up on attempts to expand after locals began recording their operations. Lauren watched her improved communication system as she methodically worked on an engine. How many people are now using the Stone Valley model? 27 verified. They all report the same pattern. Businesses quickly alter their conduct and they are aware that they are being observed. It was Mike who spoke on the radio. Lauren received some fascinating guests at my truck yard. Business representatives who wished to talk about the development of community-based businesses. Rather of threats, they brought agreements on transparency. Lauren observed the new patterns spreading throughout Stone Valley via her security cams. Legitimate companies now approached with real collaboration opportunities where strategic security had before threatened with force. The power dynamics had changed. Emma phoned from work, "Mom. Other schools have made requests to my student journalism club. They are interested in learning how to look into corporate influence." Lauren grinned with pride. By educating other students how to safeguard their communities, her daughter had made her experience her goal. What did you say to them? That it's more crucial to keep an eye out for the truth than difficulty. Winchester looked at her phone. Similar reports are being received across the country. Your documentation technique is being used by community organizations, student organizations, and local journalists. Despite his advanced age, Walt looked energetic as he walked in the back door. The business district is worth a visit. There are now transparency standards attached to every company proposal. Businesses are genuinely vying for customers' confidence. Because, as Lauren pointed out when tightening a timing belt, they've learnt their lesson. When corporate corruption is exposed, it cannot continue. Not in the linked world of today. As word of the metamorphosis spread, her network continued to report. Formerly intimidated communities were now calling for accountability from corporations. Preventive documentation systems were being put in place in small towns that had been afraid of being taken over. Elizabeth's voice added to the radio noise, "Lauren. The school boards created new rules for community supervision, business collaborations, complete openness, and assurances of student safety." Lauren observed several people enter her garage through her cameras. Now it's community leaders looking for direction, not federal agents or press crews. Business owners in small towns are studying self-defense techniques. Local authorities are researching preventative measures. It's turning into a movement, Winchester said. Changing how communities engage with corporate power is just as important as combating corporate wrongdoing. Updates from neighboring towns rushed through Lauren's phone. The trend was consistent across all messages. Companies are learning to collaborate with communities rather than try to control them, giving up aggressive strategies, and implementing transparent processes. Emma showed up with her laptop, "Mom. Children in other states are adopting our documentation techniques to reveal attempts at school control and posting business threat stories online." Lauren answered, "Because they've learned the most important lesson. Any corporate power cannot overcome the strength of that truth expressed by several voices." Mike used the radio to communicate additional adjustments. These days, corporate shipping contracts include local company assurances and community protection clauses. In reality, they are vying to demonstrate their moral character. Winchester gave a nod. Law enforcement follows the same trend. Transparency standards for business collaborations are being implemented by departments. No more covert transactions. Lauren walked over to her computer and watched the impact grow. The collapse of strategic security has revealed the malfeasance of more than one company. It had exposed how susceptible all corporate power was to public scrutiny. Walt's voice was filled with wonder. Lauren. My parts store recently hosted corporate consultants who were interested in learning how to create genuine community connections. Is it not unbelievable? Lauren clarified that they are adapting. Realizing that using money or coercion to govern communities is no longer effective. Not in front of everyone. As corporate conduct changed, her network kept reporting. Businesses that had previously depended on threats were now forming genuine community alliances. Transparency was being embraced by companies that had previously concealed themselves behind legal threats. Mom. Emma called down. According to Elizabeth, several universities are establishing student-led monitoring committees in place of traditional business collaborations. Lauren grinned. The following generation was starting school early. The greatest protections against corruption were truth and knowledge. She saw Stone Valley thrive under the new paradigm through her security feeds. Real collaborations are helping local businesses prosper. Shared vigilance strengthening ties throughout the community. Business partnerships based on truth rather than power. Winchester pointed out that you've altered the regulations. Developed a new framework for communication between the community and businesses. No, she was told by Lauren. We simply demonstrated the power that people already possessed. The capacity to tell tales and reveal the truth. Messages from other mechanics around the nation rang through her phone. They all reported comparable changes. Businesses are coming respectfully rather than threateningly. Aiming for collaboration rather than dominance. Emma said, it's like sunshine. Observing business representatives as they talk about open contracts with nearby companies. Things must change when darkness is illuminated. Lauren gave her daughter a hug. That's precisely correct. Shadows were essential to corporate dominance. On terror and stillness. However, those are no longer effective. For Stone Valley had defeated more than one company. They had established a brand new reality in which corporate wrongdoing would be exposed. Where groups have the resources and know-how to defend themselves. Beating them isn't the real victory, Lauren said to Winchester. The goal is to alter them. Making dishonesty more expensive than corruption. She saw additional local leaders come through her cameras. Looking for advice on putting the Stone Valley approach into practice. The teachings would be taken home by every one of them. Share the information. Bolster the resistance network. Mom. Emma spoke with pride. According to my journalism instructor, next semester we will be researching the Stone Valley case. About how, when people band together, truth triumphs over authority. Lauren grinned. Her daughter was learning more than simply how to stay safe. She was studying metamorphosis. About how local communities could alter corporate power itself. Because that was their victory's enduring legacy. Not only revealing the corruption in strategic security, but establishing an environment that would prevent such corruption. Where transparency forced corporate power to change. Or go down in history. Winchester looked over her day's last reports. What's truly fantastic, you know. The businesses that adjust. That value openness and genuine community collaboration. In fact, they're doing better. Demonstrating that doing business ethically is profitable. Lauren answered, because they've learned the most costly lesson in corporate history, that trust is more valuable than power in the modern world. And only by telling the truth can one gain trust. 2 months after the collapse of strategic security, Lauren's morning ritual had changed. At dawn, she continued to open her garage. Tools were still arranged with military accuracy. She now juggled a new role with her mechanical profession, nevertheless. Teaching self-defense to other communities. Winchester revealed their most recent success story. Bringing in some freshly brewed coffee. Oregon small town. Prevented a corporate takeover of their small enterprises by using your documentation method. Direct confrontation wasn't even necessary. I just began to videotape everything. As she identified a transmission issue, Lauren nodded. Conflict avoidance victories are the best. Businesses typically back off before threatening when they are aware that they are being watched. She had expanded her network into a national early warning system. Information sharing among communities. Recording business conduct. Stopping intimidation in its tracks. Mom. From the workplace, Emma called. My network of student journalists is growing. This week, 5 additional schools joined. Techniques for business investigations are what we teach. Through the window of her office, Lauren observed her daughter. A mixture of wonder and pride. From being the subject of corporate threats, Emma had changed into a leader who taught others self-defense techniques. What is the progress of the school program? Lauren inquired. Excellent. Checking corporate partnerships is a skill that students are mastering. Keep track of any questionable activity. Safely exchange information. According to Elizabeth, a whole new generation of watchdogs is being produced. Winchester looked at her progress. Schools across the country are implementing a similar approach. Children are taught about corporate transparency at a young age. Protection of the community. The strength of verified facts. The radio crackled with Mike's voice. Lauren, do you recall the business officials that attempted to scare my drivers last month? They have returned, but in a different form. Wishing to form partnerships for moral transportation under community supervision. Lauren observed the new corporate engagement pattern via her security feeds. Where force and threats had reigned supreme. Cooperation and transparency were becoming commonplace. Businesses have gained costly insight into the dynamics of contemporary power. Changes, Winchester continued. Updates are being made to federal guidelines. New rules mandating transparency in the corporate community. Requirements for documentation. Defense against coercive methods. Walt came in with a lively appearance. The business district should now be visible to you. Community benefit promises are included in all company proposals. Every collaboration is examined by local oversight groups. It is similar to witnessing the process of evolution. Lauren walked over to her computer and watched the impact grow. Corruption had not just been halted by the Stone Valley model. It had radically altered the way businesses interacted with rural towns. Mom. Emma showed up carrying her laptop. My work with the Student Journalism Network was viewed by college admissions personnel. Scholarships for community advocacy initiatives are available. Lauren gave her daughter a hug. You see. It's better to stand up to bullies than to give in to them. I tell the other students that, Emma said. How not being afraid isn't the same as being brave. In any case, it's about doing the right thing. Lauren saw additional guests arriving through her cameras. Community leaders looking for direction. Owners of businesses are learning how to defend themselves. Students are learning how to document. Stone Valley had developed into a corporate resistance education hub. The radio hubbub was joined by Elizabeth's voice. Lauren. At a major education conference, the school board is introducing our new corporate oversight program. Every district aspires to enact comparable safeguards. Winchester gave a nod. Same pattern in several industries. Local government, law enforcement, and business groupings. Versions of your transparency criteria are being adopted by everyone. While keeping an eye on updates, Lauren worked diligently on the transmission. Her garage had evolved into more than just a place to fix things. It served as a metaphor for how truth and documentation may empower communities to overthrow corporate authority. Lauren. Walt made a radio call. I received some intriguing news. Strategic security was aided by those corporate contractors. They are rebranding as consultants for community protection, educating companies on fostering trust rather than fear. Lauren pointed out that they've learned force and fear are no longer effective. Not when everyone can reveal the truth. As word of the metamorphosis spread, her network continued to report. Once terrified of corporate takeover, communities were now negotiating equitable partnerships with confidence. Previously intimidated small communities were putting preventive documentation procedures in place. Mom. There was enthusiasm in Emma's voice. Something was discovered by my journalism students. Corporate impact trends in educational technology initiatives. However, we're collaborating with the corporations to address issue rather than only publicizing it. Lauren grinned with pride. Her daughter was fighting against more than just corruption. She was contributing to making it better. She saw Stone Valley thrive under the new paradigm through her security feeds. Real collaborations are helping local businesses prosper. Shared vigilance strengthening ties throughout the community. Instead than focusing on power dynamics, corporate interactions are based on mutual benefit. What's truly fantastic, you know? Winchester watched. Businesses that promote openness, transparency, and genuine community involvement are outperforming traditional corporate bullies in terms of financial performance. It was confirmed by Mike's voice. I obtained information from my transportation network. Contracts, community support, and customer loyalty are all increasing for ethical businesses. It turns out that doing the right thing is profitable. Taking the pattern into account, Lauren changed the timing of the transmission. Because they at last realized a crucial aspect of contemporary power. Fear is not as valuable as trust. Collaboration is more effective than control. Emma showed up in the doorway of the garage. Children from different schools are posing an intriguing query, Mom. Not only how to combat corporate bullies, but also how to improve businesses. That's the true change, Lauren said. Not only bringing corruption to light, but also coming up with a better alternative. Since Stone Valley had defeated more than one dishonest company, they have developed a novel approach to business community engagement. One based on openness, trust, and reciprocity rather than authority and terror. Winchester observed that the world was changing. Observing more local leaders show up in search of advice. One mechanic refused to be intimidated, and that's when it began. Lauren gave a headshake. No, community's refusal to be silenced was the first step. With individuals speaking the truth. With pupils learning how to safeguard their future. She observed Emma conducting another student journalism workshop through her cameras. Instructing others on how to look into, record, and change corporate influence in their local areas. That's the true triumph, Lauren informed Winchester. Teaching the next generation how to avoid corruption is just as important as preventing it. How to construct a better product. Because Stone Valley had done more than just reveal the dishonesty of one firm. They had built a future that would not allow for such wickedness to flourish. Where corporate power has to either change to reflect transparency or become obsolete. Meanwhile, another company in America was taking the most costly business lesson. The only way to have lasting authority in a world where anyone may reveal the truth is to gain people's trust rather than instill terror. Lauren was drinking coffee in her garage doorway 3 months after Strategic Securities fell, and she was thinking on how much had changed as she watched the sunrise. From being a target of corporate intimidation, Stone Valley had evolved into a community empowerment model. Winchester joined her with case files and said he had received the final report from the FBI investigation. The collapse of Strategic Securities revealed malfeasance in more than 50 large organizations. Altered corporate community relations in its entirety. Lauren started her daily ritual by moving to her workshop. What is the number of businesses that have embraced the new transparency standards? More than 200 so far. The Stone Valley Compliance Program is the name given to it. Corporate boards are enforcing it as a rule. It was Mike who spoke on the radio. Lauren returned from a national trucking conference just now. Every big business is putting community safety procedures into place. In reality, they are vying to establish who is more moral. Lauren kept an eye on the morning activities through her security feeds, where strategic securities contractors had previously put firms in danger. Now, business representatives came out with sincere suggestions for partnerships and assurances of openness. Emma yelled up from upstairs, "Mom! My student journalism network received a national award nomination. We are being referred to be the next wave of corporate watchdogs." Lauren grinned with pride. Her daughter had transformed fear into power and trauma into victory. How many schools are currently part of the network? More than 100. And it's no longer just about keeping an eye out for issues. We're educating businesses on how to effectively engage with communities. Winchester looked at her progress. Similar initiatives are proliferating across several industries. Local government, law enforcement, and business groupings. Versions of your documentation strategy are being used by everyone. Walt went through the rear entrance. Despite his age, he was clearly excited. The business district is worth a visit. In fact, corporate executives share development plans, attend neighborhood meetings, and solicit local feedback. It's similar to slow-motion revolution viewing. While keeping an eye on her growing network, Lauren worked on an engine. The Stone Valley model had developed into a model for moral business conduct, going beyond mere corporate opposition. Elizabeth's voice added to the radio noise, "Lauren. Our corporate oversight program is being presented by school boards at an international education conference. Other nations' districts wish to adopt it." Lauren saw additional guests arriving through her cameras. These days, business executives are also trying to grasp the new paradigm, in addition to community leaders. Businesses discovered that trust was more important than fear. "Mom." Emma showed up carrying her laptop. "Do you recall the corporate IT programs we were introduced to in school? In fact, the businesses congratulated us and indicated we had improved their relationships with the community. They've learned something crucial," so Lauren used a shop rag to wipe her hands. "Reputation is more important than power in the modern society." As word of the metamorphosis spread, her network continued to report. Communities who had previously been afraid of corporate takeover were now forming equitable partnerships with confidence. Transparency and local collaboration were being adopted by businesses that had previously depended on intimidation. Mike called over the radio, "Lauren. My trucking contacts gave me some fascinating news. Corporate takeovers were once aided by those private security firms. All of them are changing their names to community relations consultants." Winchester gave a nod. "The pattern is the same everywhere. Corporate power no longer operates in the same ways. Not when everyone is capable of revealing the truth." Lauren saw Stone Valley thrive under the new paradigm through her security feeds. Real collaborations are helping local businesses prosper. Shared vigilance strengthening ties throughout the community. Instead than focusing on power dynamics, corporate interactions are based on mutual benefit. What demonstrates the shift the most? Walt noted. Which businesses opposed transparency the most? Now it's they who are having trouble. In fact, ethical behavior is rewarded by markets. Emma joined them with a contemplative expression. "According to my business instructor, we are researching a novel idea. Corporate development that is focused on the community. Utilizing Stone Valley as the main illustration." Taking stock of the progress, Lauren changed a timing belt. Because people finally get it. Control is no longer the essence of true power. It's about establishing trust, working together, and connecting. Winchester reviewed the last reports she had. Nationally, federal guidelines are being modified. New legislation mandating transparency in the corporate community. Defense against coercion. Actual partnership requirements. Lauren observed further corporate representatives arriving at Stone Valley through her webcams. Not to frighten or threaten, but to get knowledge. To comprehend how moral community involvement could help businesses flourish. Mom. Silently, Emma inquired. Will this last, in your opinion? The modifications we contributed to? Lauren gave her daughter a hug. People like you are the reason it will endure. The following generation, which is capable of safeguarding their communities. How to hold corporate power to higher standards. Because Stone Valley had not only prevented the corruption of one firm. They have developed a novel approach to business community engagement. One based on openness, confidence, and reciprocity rather than authority and terror. The world has changed. Winchester took note. Observing more local leaders show up in search of advice. One mechanic refused to be intimidated, and that's when it began. Lauren gave a headshake. No. Community's refusal to be silenced was the first step. With individuals speaking the truth. With pupils learning how to safeguard their future. She observed Emma conducting another student workshop via her security feeds. Instructing others on how to look into, record, and change corporate influence in their local areas. That's the true triumph, Lauren informed Winchester. Not merely preventing corruption. However, instructing the following generation on how to avoid it. How to construct a better product. Successes were still being reported by her network. Communities putting protective plans into action. Businesses are implementing transparency guidelines. From the ashes of the strategic securities empire, new era of corporate community relations is developing. Mom. From her workshop, Emma called. Children are posing an intriguing query. Not simply how to combat bullies in business. However, how can businesses become better partners? Lauren grinned. The most crucial lesson had been understood by her daughter. Resistance wasn't the only factor in that long-lasting shift. It had to do with change. Because the most important lesson in contemporary business was being learned in corporate boardrooms someplace in America. In a society where the truth can be revealed by everyone. Gaining trust is the only way to have long-lasting power. Not causing dread. And when communities come together, Stone Valley would serve as a lasting reminder. When information is openly shared. When individuals refuse to be quieted. Instead of dominating, even the most powerful organizations need to learn how to serve. 6 months following the decline of strategic securities. Lauren Foster's garage remained almost unchanged. Military accuracy in the arrangement of the tools. The early air mixed with the smell of motor oil and coffee. However, the shift was characterized by modest modifications. Emma's engine diagrams were displayed next to pictures of her journalism achievements. Repair manuals and community safety standards shared a wall. The final figures have been released. Sharing her morning report, Winchester stated. The largest corporate reform movement in history was brought on by the collapse of strategic securities. The Stone Valley Community Relations criteria have been embraced by more than 300 businesses. Lauren worked on a truck engine steadily. Her hands are still lacking in practice. What number of towns are currently putting protection plans into place? Number of losses after 500. It's getting commonplace. Corporate activity is being documented by communities worldwide. Exchanging data. Stopping intimidation in its tracks. Lauren observed the morning traffic on her security feeds. In the past, corporate contractors had circled menacingly. Now, respect and openness were shown when legitimate company representatives approached. Emma phoned from work, Mom. I have a fascinating thing to show you. She came out holding a textbook. The Stone Valley case is currently being taught in business schools. About how moral business conduct yields more financial gains than coercion. Wiping her hands, Lauren studied the chapter her daughter had shown her. Their tale had evolved into a guide to contemporary business methods. How corporate community connections were permanently altered by one tiny town. The radio crackled with Mike's voice. "Do you recall the corporate transport contracts that caused us concern, Lauren? Recently renewed with provisions for complete community supervision. In fact, businesses boast about their transparency scores." Winchester gave a nod. "The pattern is the same everywhere. Businesses vying to demonstrate their moral character. Those who continue to use outdated forms of intimidation are losing clients. Market proportion. Public confidence." Walt came in with a contented expression. "I had a fascinating meeting at the parts store just now. Before putting forward new initiatives, corporate representatives inquire about community impact studies. Genuinely hearing what the locals have to say." Lauren observed Stone Valley's peaceful morning ritual through her cameras. Local companies are opening with assurance. Students going fearlessly to school. A community that has gone from being a victim to a winner. From the student to the instructor. "Mom." Emma showed up carrying her laptop. "Something caught the attention of my journalism students. Experts in community relations are beginning to be hired by businesses. Those who comprehend both sides of the Stone Valley model." The radio hubbub was joined by Elizabeth's voice. "Lauren. The new corporate monitoring program at the school is doing better than anticipated. Businesses are genuinely soliciting student opinions on community projects. They wish to comprehend the viewpoint of the following generation." Lauren grinned as she recalled its beginnings. A change in business procedures was brought about by a corporation's threat against her daughter. The goal of strategic security had been to keep a tiny community quiet. Rather, they had contributed to the development of a new voice for communities worldwide. "You know what's truly amazing," Winchester said. "Businesses that embrace genuine community partnerships and adjust. They are prospering rather than merely surviving. Demonstrating that doing business ethically is profitable." Lauren saw additional guests arriving over her security feeds. Community leaders looking for direction. Business leaders are acquiring new methods. Students researching defense tactics. Stone Valley was no longer just a town. It served as a representation of altered power relations. "Lauren." Walt made a radio call. "Do you recall the corporate contractors who once assisted takeovers? They have all changed their names. Educating businesses on how to foster community trust rather than fear." Mike provided his update. "My trucking network informed me. Preferred contracts are awarded to businesses with high transparency scores. In fact, ethical behavior is rewarded by markets." Emma watched the morning commotion while sitting next to her mother. It can be difficult to believe how much has changed at times. "Do you recall our fear about corporate power?" Lauren gave her daughter a hug. "You're now instructing firms on how to improve. That's the true triumph. Showing bullies an alternative path is just as important as stopping them." For Stone Valley had defeated more than one company. They had established a new reality in which community trust was essential to business success. Where openness held greater value than coercion. Where moral conduct was profitable. Winchester announced the Federal Oversight Final Report. New business regulations are being modeled after Stone Valley. Establishing legislative requirements for openness and community protection. Lauren saw another company official come through her webcams. Proposals for community partnerships, not threats. The old balance of power has changed irrevocably. "Mom." Silently, Emma inquired. "Will you ever share the entire story? What about your experience in special forces? How did you know how to combat them?" Lauren grinned. "It's best to keep some stories in the background. What people learned is what counts. That collective communities are more powerful than corporate influence." Successes continue to come in from her network. More towns are putting protective initiatives into action. More businesses are embracing moral principles. Corporate community relations is being taught to more students. As he watched the morning unfold, Winchester observed, "You transformed the world." "No," Lauren clarified. "We demonstrated to the world its capacity for self-change. That has a lot more power." Because the most costly lesson in business history was being taught in corporate boardrooms somewhere in America. Community trust was more valuable than corporate power in today's interconnected society. And a mechanic and her daughter had demonstrated in Stone Valley that money and force were not the best ways to fight corruption. It was the truth, expressed by numerous voices, and it spread beyond control. Emma stopped at the garage door before leaving for her morning journalism lesson. "I'm grateful that you taught me the most crucial lesson, Mom." "Which one?" "Because having courage alone isn't enough to confront bullies. It's about proving to others that they are also capable of bravery." Lauren stared with a mixture of pride and confidence as her daughter left. The wrong family in the wrong town at the wrong time had been endangered by strategic security. However, their error had contributed to the creation of something strong. A future in which localities were aware of their own power. Where businesses were aware of their obligations. Where the most powerful force of all was truth. The town was painted in shades of triumph as the morning sun rose higher above Stone Valley. Lauren Foster resumed her practice of repairing engines in her shop. Now, however, each tool she used and each repair she performed had a deeper significance. Because sometimes the smallest adjustments lead to the biggest ones. With a parent defending their offspring. One community united. Uncontrollably, one truth is spreading. And that was the true legacy of Stone Valley in the end. Overcoming corporate corruption is not enough. But demonstrating to the world how to avoid it. Defending more than one neighborhood. But educating every community on self-defense. Grinning, Lauren picked up her wrench. Engines still needed to be fixed. Battles remained to be fought. There are still things to be learned. Now, however, every tiny community was aware of something significant. When localities come together. When information is openly shared. When individuals refuse to be quieted. Instead of dominating, even the most powerful corporations need to learn how to serve. And that lesson was well worth the cost. Every battle. Each and every second of their protracted struggle for justice. 2 more amazing tales await you directly on your screen in the next section. You won't want to miss these if you like this one. To watch, simply click. Remember to subscribe as well. A lot would be at stake.
Disclaimer. This channel stands against all forms of intolerance, discrimination, racism, and violations of human rights. The stories shared here are original creations, developed to encourage reflection, understanding, and constructive dialogue. All content is produced with a commitment to respecting diversity and honoring human dignity.